Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of American Grit with myself, Tim Jensen. It is the new year. It is 2025, and I'm sorry to tell you, and maybe disappoint you, still no flying cars. But we have the next best thing with us today. We have our dear friend. You may know him as the Executive Adjutant or the Adjutant General of the VFW, our dear friend, Dan West. Welcome to the show, my friend. How is it going? It is 2025. How's it going for you, man?
Well, it's going wonderful. We've already got terrorist attacks across the country, and I got a call to arms to activate all veterans to defend America once again.
Oh, God damn it. This is great.
It is. I'm telling you.
It's like Groundhog's Day.
It is. So, no, it's going great, Tim. I appreciate you having me here. I look forward to doing this. And like I said, be careful. There's stuff in my head that even Freddy Krueger's afraid of.
Well, that's fantastic, and I hope that we get to scare a little bit of the audience today with some great stories. Dan, you come from a pretty awesome background. You're a former Marine, a drill instructor on the island at one point. Got some accolades of service and kicking some things around. And you've spent a storied time in the VFW, one of the staples of Americana, if you will. Tell us a little bit about your background, man. What makes Dan West? Because I've seen the pictures, man, and I'm missing the mustache.
Yeah, that porn stash was a wonderful thing back when I had that. So yeah, Tim, you just covered like 40 years of history there. So I truly was honored and blessed to be able to serve in the Marines. It was not one of those things I had intentionally set out to do, but I was actually working up in Dallas as making window caulk.
Oh, wow.
And
making caulk, huh?
Making caulk. I'm telling you, I was burning the world up with that stuff.
Was it white caulk, black caulk? What kind of caulk?
It was all colors of caulk, mainly bronze-colored caulk. That was the style at the time. But I did learn how to make napalm up there.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. Then I learned how to drive a stick shift because the forklift was not automatic. I damaged a few things, but had a friend of mine. We all got those friends in high school, kind of goofy, whatever. He went off, joined the Marines, came back, and when he came back, there was just a level of confidence in him that I said, if he can do it, so can I. Dare taken. And started that. I had the opportunity to do 11 years, and during that time, I had some unique opportunities most people don't get.
Yeah.
My first duty station was on board the USS Nimitz as part of the Marine Detachment. So I got to travel all of the Caribbean, the North Atlantic, the Mediterranean, and then decided, you know what, let's stay on this for one more cruise and we'll circumnavigate the globe and change home port from Norfolk, Virginia, or as the sailors call it, no fuck vagina. So I don't know if I can say that. You're going to bleep me out, right? All right. So, well, that's because, they got Marines there, The damn sailors. Anyway.
Yeah, I've been there. It's not a fun town.
Yeah, it's not a fun town. Anyway, so we went over to Bremerton, Washington, where the Buffarillos live at, So.
That's my son is currently on the Nimitz, and
Is he really?
That's where he's at. Yeah.
All right, great ship. Anyway, so from there I went to an infantry unit, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. Was with Charlie Company for a bit, and then they pushed me over to the NBC side because when I was on the Nimitz, I got bored. Couldn't get into the college classes because you had 6,000 sailors trying to go to college on the ship. Yeah. So I ended
Boston University, in the galley.
Exactly. So I ended up doing. I was the damage control petty officer for the Marine Detachment. I ended up doing the enlisted surface warfare specialist thing.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I actually had to get a waiver from the ship's captain because I was only an E4 at the time, and they would only let E5s in. But I aced my oral boards with the chiefs, senior chiefs, master chiefs. I'll never forget that a senior chief has 1 star and a master chief has 2 stars.
Right.
There's a story behind that, but it requires some beer. So, part of that was the chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear, biological, chemical defense. I ended up going over to that. Did a couple of floats, did a Westpac 88, did another one in 90. Of course, came back, Desert Storm kicked off.
Yeah.
And everybody was worried about chemical and biological capabilities.
Oh, yeah, you're about to make your money.
I made some money. I didn't do anything. But anyway, we got deployed with 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, Task Force Papa Bear, one of the first units into the oil field zones. I call them the breach zones. Hit both those, got into the Al-Wafra, Albacan, cleaned out a bunch of trenches, did some things like that, came back home, and I had orders to go to recruiting school.
Yeah.
so I'm sitting there thinking.
That's your B billet?
Yeah, it's my B billet. And anyway, that was prior to Desert Storm kicking off. So I get Desert Storm's over. We're sitting over in the desert. We're playing volleyball. You know, Marines, we organize this giant volleyball league because there's nothing more sexy than 900 Marines who haven't been fed in probably 4 months. Butt naked, except for those UDD shorts, playing volleyball in the sand. I mean,
it's like
not a woman in sight, but
it's like organized sports at Dachau.
Yeah, it was pretty much. So, anyway, come home from that. They said, where do you want to go? They had this great job. They said you could be a crew chief on a C-130.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Traveling all over Europe.
Ooh.
My young Marine mind went nuts. I've been in the desert for 4 months, know. I'm looking at my hand like it's my little sister and I'm from Arkansas or something, know.
And the other hand is recruiting duty.
Exactly, So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I could travel all over Europe. I'd been to Europe before when I was on the Nimitz, but this would be great. So I put in for it. And them bastards at Headquarters Marine Corps, you know what they told me? They said, you ain't qualified. I said, what do you mean I ain't qualified? Yeah, you didn't go to crew chief school. You got to do that first. Yeah. So where do you want to go? You can be a drill instructor or you can be a recruiter. I said, well, hell, I think I'll be a drill instructor. Why the hell not?
So they weren't gonna create a role on the MTO for you to go to school or anything like that.
No, I can't understand that. I said, why'd you give me the option to begin with? Yeah, you could do this. Well, yeah, I can do that. Shit, I just survived a desert warfare.
Right.
What's interesting though, Tim, is about 4 months prior to that, I was in Thailand doing military advisor duty with the Thai Marines. Mm-hmm. So I was in an environment where if I just squatted, I was hidden because there were bushes everywhere, trees. Yeah. I mean, and everybody talks about triple canopy drum. My ass, there's very little of that. I was in double canopy most of the time. All right, you just lay down or stand still, and you become part of the scenery. Yeah. No, you're camouflaged. You go over to the desert, you can lay down in the prone position and dig a hole, and you are still the highest elevation for 100 miles. Right. And people will use your location to call in artillery on. There's a bump. That's where the enemy's at, and you're like, what the hell?
1,000 meters.
So, and I love kidding my Vietnam veterans. They sit there and talk about, I was in Vietnam. I say, well, shit, I was in the fucking desert. You had something to hide behind. I didn't have shit.
Yeah, exactly.
What the hell? Come over there, exchange that with me. I'd like to see you in the desert and then bitch about ain't nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And then ask yourself.
120 degrees.
Yeah, 120. Then ask yourself, why were the wet wipes so important? Well, try wiping your ass with that fucking nasty ass shit in the MREs, all right? Yeah. So, yes. But anyway, so I finished that, went to drill instructor duty. Next best thing to being God. Yeah. I mean, you can click your fingers and point. The recruits don't even know what the hell you're asking them to do, but they're going to do it.
Right.
All right? You yell at them.
Let's be clear. Is this at Parris Island or MCRD San Diego?
MCRD San Diego, Hollywood Marine, 100%.
Hollywood.
Yeah, I've seen them Parris Islands guys. They sit around scratching themselves.
You better lock it up, son.
You know what? I'll lock it up on top of Mount Motherfucker. And there's a reason why
I've done Motherfucker. I've done Microwave Mountain. I've done Grim Reaper.
Microwave Mountain, the Reaper. Yeah, that's all.
I did do First Sergeant's Hill. I didn't do that one.
You didn't do that one?
No.
That was my daily run. What the hell?
Yeah, when we were in Horno, I got all those experiences.
I love Horno. I love going out to Ridgeline. You ever done the Ridgeline when it's raining?
No, but
It's fun. I mean, because you'll take 2 steps up and you'll slide 3 steps back.
Yes, those are like thigh burners, man.
Yeah, more injuries off of that than in battle. Shit, but so I got to do the drill instructor thing, and it was I really enjoyed that. I had opportunity to see people motivated with nothing more than an ideal. I know why I joined the Marines, and I know why and how I passed boot camp. It was about digging into myself and all that.
Yeah.
But when you actually get to see it from the outside part,
yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I've got 3 younger brothers that are Marines, and they're all from San Diego, and they're all shitbags. Me being clearly from Parris Island, risen to the top, sir.
When I got out of the Marines, I started my own security business. There's a reason why, because I couldn't find a job.
Yeah,
and I was an infantry guy. The world depended on me to keep freedom. Right. Despised by the enemies of our nation one day, despised by the citizens of our country the next, because now I'm not in a uniform.
Right.
So I started that. And here's something I discovered about Marines. You're either a good one or you're a bad one. There ain't no in between.
That's true. So,
and the best way I found to screen is just say, hey, what do you think about Firewatch? Seriously, you think about it. Marines either loved Firewatch,
right,
and they'd go around, hey, I'll take your Firewatch, cost you $40 or a pack of smokes, right?
Right, true.
Or they say, man, I'll give you $100 to take my.
I was the giver.
Exactly. And see, I was the guy that would take. I left with more money out of the Marines than I could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Plus about 40 different boombox radios.
I proclaim, and this is no secret, I was a terrible Garrison Marine. I was like, Garrison Marines sucked the worst, especially being in the Courthouse Bay. It was awful.
I hate shaving.
But yeah, exactly. But when it came to combat, like, oh man, like I was
That's
like, it was a whole nother animal.
Alive. Yes, you come alive when you're dead. But yes, most Marines are terrible Garrison Marines. You'll get a few, they're the, I guess, HR guys or admin guys, they like that stuff. You know, the ones that say, well, I would have gone to war, but my wife wouldn't let me.
Right.
Said no real Marine ever.
Right.
My wife wouldn't let me. Oh, okay. How do you say pussy whipped without saying you're pussy whipped?
That's right. Yeah, it's. But yeah, they're certainly there. I've come across like I think is a good Marine or a bad Marine? Is it combat Marine or Garrison Marine? Because even Chesty, old Pappy would say, you want to know where the real Marines are? Go down to the brig, right? Take me to the brig.
Exactly.
And certainly those guys in the brig are those are the guys I want in my fighting position.
So, there's always been that, I guess, division. Even, you want a infantry Marine, do you want an air wing Marine?
Yeah.
I think what matters is when it matters the most, they all come together.
Yeah.
They all work together. I mean, we'll have our own inter-service rivalry and all that stuff, but
it is fascinating to really put it into perspective like that, and it's largely because, let's admit it, the Marine Corps is a cult, right? We're a cult of
we're an organized governmental cult.
We're a death cult, man. I mean, you only call us when you need to kill things.
That's right.
So and we're unlike any other part of the military. You have to get into like the special forces to really see the camaraderie that is
true.
Within the Marine Corps basics. Right. And it's probably because we're a smaller unit and the way that we train and all that and the other. But it is fascinating to see out in the real world. If you were to call on the need of another veteran as a Marine, like that a Marine will show their face, like they will come from out of the crowd, and you now have a brother or a sister standing by your side. I don't know if that's necessarily the same for the Army or Navy or the Air Force. If you would see that level of camaraderie, because half of these people don't even know when their birthday is.
Right. No, they don't. So, it's interesting you talk about that. One of the things that I was telling somebody the other day, we were talking about the 32nd anniversary of Desert Storm, and I was telling them, if you'd have told me 30 years later, even 10 years later, that some of my best friends would have been soldiers or airmen, I would have laughed at you.
Sure.
'Cause I only knew Marines. Marines were it, total 100%. And but it's interesting that the Marines, we have that shared hardship or trauma bonding, as some people call it. But we have a training regimen that has intentionally been designed to be harder, to be more realistic of what realistic combat will be, where others do not, because I guess they're worried about touchy-feely feelings or any of this. I remember when I was a drill instructor, they just started experimenting with stress cards. And all that.
Geez, yeah. When were you instructor?
I was drilling. I was a hat from 1990, right after Desert Storm. I was the first drill instructor school right after Desert Storm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was like 120 of us that went through, but only 80 graduated.
Wow.
It was pretty tough. I guess. I didn't think it was that tough. Here's what's interesting. I love the Marine Corps standards is that after 4.5 months in the desert, I was down to like 198 pounds. I was literally skin and bones.
Yeah.
I was 2 pounds overweight when I went to drill instructor school at 198.
Oh, get this guy rations.
No, I was in the PCP platoon, man. I had to run extra, ate nothing but rice cakes and shit. The lowest I ever got was 196, but I got off of there, damn it.
Yeah.
But that's when I started running marathons. Actually did the Ironman triathlon in 93.
Yeah, you were a pretty solid individual back in your 30s, pal.
Well, I'm telling you, the girls were lining up. I was also a stripper, but
That's another thing that is synonymous with Marines.
Yeah, telling you. So, but I like the Marine thing. One of the things I've noticed in the VFW is we have leaders of all types.
Yeah.
But more often than not, you're going to see a Marine volunteer to step up and take on a leadership role, not necessarily as the commander, but somebody within that post that makes it run and makes it work more often than not. Now, there are some great soldiers out there that are doing the same, some great airmen, and there's a few sailors. So far I haven't any space guys yet, but they're new. We do have one Coast Guard person that I'm aware of, and I say person because she's a she. So, and I got picked up by a Coast Guard boat in the middle of the Gulf one time after the whole drill instructor thing, doing DEA stuff. But so I love the Coast Guard. They'll come pick you up in the middle of the damp Gulf of Mexico when you need them to. So,
right.
But yeah, I think Marines step up more so. That you'll see that in civic, in the civilian world as well.
Yeah.
More of your Marines are in senior leaderships. Everybody wants your opinion. And here's what I love the most. You can do 4 years in the Marines, do 26 in the Army, the Air Force, or the Navy. What uniform are you getting buried in?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the old rubbing. The old rubbing.
The uniform's unchanged for a couple hundred years now.
That's right. And, I'm pretty excited that this will be the third attempt. But as I understand it, Ton Tavern is coming back.
Ton Tavern is. I was talking with some of their organizers. They've already got the property bought. They got everything. They're going to start building it. They did this study. How many times people stopped to just look at the sign? Yeah. And it said, I don't think it went more than 10 minutes without somebody pulling up in a car, jumping out, and getting a picture taken. I think I'm buying one of their copper mugs or something like that.
Oh yeah. I think if you're a Marine and you're only hearing this for the first time, this is going to be big. I mean, it's going to be like a pilgrimage.
It will, but here's the other thing. Like I said, you study history. Tun Tavern was also the place where the first Masonic Lodge in America was organized at. And then there's another organization that was formed out of there. So Tun Tavern in American history is an extremely important landmark.
Yeah, they used to write bills there.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. There's
a lot of ale drunk there, too, or I guess we'd call that beer today. So I'm sure a few shots were thrown around.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I think it's... it's fascinating. I didn't really truly understand the Masonic influence in the United States Marine Corps lineage until it was a master sergeant that kind of illuminated that for me. As I was like 19 years old, I'm like, "What are you talking about, Top?"
Right.
And he's like, "No, this is all it." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Holy shit!" And it's pretty fascinating for anybody that really wants to get into it, like George Washington and all the early founders and this idea of free will and independence, government.
Imagine that. What a radical concept.
Radical, right?
I'm telling you.
Here we are today. That if you say vaccination on a social media platform, you're getting deplatformed.
Yes, you are. The censorship today by all of these. This is my grandmother, ninnies or something like that. Ninnies. My grandmother used to call them ninnies. They're too sensitive to hear hard news.
Yeah. It's a far cry from when you and I were kids. Like
I think we had the blessing that our grandparents and maybe to some degree our parents still remember the lessons of the Great Depression.
Yeah.
When hardship was something everybody.
Yeah.
Experienced, even people of means experienced a hardship to some level just because they couldn't get that. I know my grandparents were both one was in the Dust Bowl too. So Dust Bowl, Great Depression, World War II, you had to be tough.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want to get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated. You want to preach about not getting vaccinated, okay. I'm not going to sit there and start crying because you said the word vaccinated.
Right.
I mean,
right.
And let's put it this way: vaccines do save lives. It's proven. Yeah. Is there a rare chance somebody's going to die from one? Yeah. But that's a much slower percentage than if you never got one and those diseases were still prevalent.
Sure.
I mean, we talked about. Founding of our country, smallpox was rampant at that time, chloria, some other diseases, and it was...
Yellow fever.
Yeah, the life expectancy wasn't that long, I think mid-50s, so... Yeah. It's
come a long way, that is for sure. But in so many advancements, we've come a long way. But I think... this is a controversial statement, but I stand by it, and I challenge anybody to point, argue me on it. But it seems that after the Patriot Act has been placed into our country, the in vogue idea is to remove as many freedoms from the American as possible.
Of course,
and I don't see that letting up anytime soon. We're here in 2025. 1 day, 2 days into the new year, we've already had 2 terrorist attacks, multiple fatalities. Is this the new norm?
Yeah. So, they even talked about this back in Revolutionary War days. Something about trading liberty for security.
Yeah.
In fact, I think our own American creed, and there are several versions of the American creed, says, I do not choose to be a common man. I choose to be a man that makes his own destiny, to look at that calculated risk and make my own decisions. Okay. If you're alive today, you should know that when you go to any place where there's more than 2 people, there's a likelihood something bad is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You should just plan on that, You know what? That's not any different than 100 years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One of the largest murders of children had to do with this guy back in, I think, the early 1900s, blew up a school with like 300 kids in it.
Yeah, I've heard that story.
Okay.
Right. Largest mass casualty event was put on by the United States government. At that, let me that's probably not the right way of saying that.
Which Indian war are you talking about?
Wounded knee, right?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So,
But I there's. I spent the Christmas break, right? Much needed vacation, unplugged. Spent a lot of time reading, right? I've read more than I've read over the break than I have in any other time in the last few years. But
so you went through all three of those crayon books, huh?
All three of them, colored outside the lines. Had a couple, munching sessions.
All right.
But I think this idea of dangerous liberty over peaceful slavery, right, is something that we as Americans have forgotten about. Right?
Yes.
We have taken things for granted for far too long in this country. There's a very small group of us that have taken up the mantle to actually get involved, right? In the preservation of our country. Now, those are arguable in terms of how the results of them turned out, but we don't. Those of us that are raising our hand are not raising our hand to be politicians, right? We're raising our hand to handle business when business needs to be done.
Correct.
And so those losses and those things come at the direct result of politicians. Right? So remove that from the conversation. But we've taken for granted for far too long this security that we have here in this country, and and when bad things happen, we have a tendency of overreacting. And here we are 20 years later to where we still are being, unreasonably frisked and, searched, trying to get onto an airplane under the idea of national security and preventing, a terrorist attack on airplanes. But we're getting individuals that are being radicalized within the United States military, as we're learning, as this continues to unfold, that are turning vehicles into, objects of destruction and violence. So, at the end of the day, violence will exist, right? We can create, laws and all these other things, yada, yada, yada. But until we get it back into this understanding of what it means to that saying of dangerous liberty over peaceful slavery, and really truly understanding what that means. Like, what does dangerous liberty mean to you?
To me, dangerous liberty to me means that I have the intrinsic value of freedom, that I can do what I decide to do. If I decide I'm going to wake up one day and I'm going to go swim butt naked in the river, then I'm going to go swim butt naked in the river. Or I'm going to go dress up and go somewhere. It means I have the right to choose my own destiny, to choose how I want to. Now, there may be consequences. I pay for that. That's what the dangerous and liberty comes from.
Yeah.
There's consequences for everything we do. There's also benefits from everything we do. So for me, dangerous liberty means the ability to do what you want, to pursue those dreams, those hopes, those ideals, to work your butt off if you want, or, take the easy way out and try to rob a bank.
Yeah.
There's consequences to that. Don't go rob a bank. I'm not advocating for that by any means, although I do have a plan. If I need free health care for the rest of my life and involves being incarcerated.
There you go. Right.
What the hell?
You got to play the game, man.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, when it comes, I think in this country, we've seen, at least in the last decade, this embracement of the peaceful slavery, that we are willing to censor ourselves and limit curious conversations that that might be, dare say, controversial.
Well, so when we talk about this subject, what I see is that we have a population, and I think we talked about this earlier, we have a population that has grown accustomed to a certain standard of living.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be having running water was not.
Yeah, right. That was only 100 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and God forbid you had hot water, you could turn the tap on and
Yeah,
get, you know.
yeah,
But so you get a lot of people who are used to certain modern advances and stuff, and they start taking that for granted. They don't realize the hardship and the work that had to go into that. And
Yeah.
for me, I find that a lack of hardship is what tends to lead towards that peaceful slavery.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's had to suffer. Oh, well, yeah, everybody needs to be safe. That's why we should go through multiple x-ray machines and get frisked and all this before we go into a bus station or an airport or any of this stuff, because everybody needs to be safe.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all you're doing now is redirecting the energies of the bad person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not getting on the airplane. Maybe they're sabotaging the airplane. Maybe they're finding other ways to intercept that airplane
Right.
or whatever. So bad people have been on this earth since the beginning of time.
Right. Cain and Abel, man.
Cain and Abel, exactly. You're always going to have that. So what you do to prepare for it, to be ready for it, I think there's life lessons all over. There's history lessons that talk about it. I mean, although I like to say we knew COVID was coming,
Yeah.
because if you study history, about every 100 years, there's a major plague, and nobody wanted to study that history. And those that did, it said, hey, get ready, it's coming. Nobody wanted to listen to them, because why? We're comfortable with our peaceful slavery.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You know, and you know, it's kind of hard to swallow being an American. You're like, man, you look back at some of the things that we've endured over the last 250 years.
Tim, I'm gonna say it's hard for people like us who have sacrificed
Yeah,
for our country, because while you and I may have served along with millions of other people, we made a sacrifice. We took ourselves away from our families to go do something to ensure every family could be together. And so it's appalling to me, I know it's appalling to you, that when we see these things, we're like, that's not what I fought for.
yeah,
That's not part of the contract I signed when I said I would help protect America. So yes, it's appalling, and I do believe that's part of the reason why we stand up and say no.
it's going to be very interesting, right? So you've got 4.5 million veterans that served in the 20-year war, right?
Yep.
We've all been punched in the face no less than 2 times with the fall of Afghanistan and how Iraq turned out.
Right.
So we got a very large group of disgruntled people, and now we're being Now the military seems to be becoming radicalized, right? With these 2 most recent incidences in Louisiana and New York. These are or Vegas. I'm sorry. Both military veterans, both come from the same unit. One being a special forces guy. What do you see any negatives that are going to come out of that? Like, do you think like mainstream media is going to start taking pot shots, or like where does it go from here? I guess
of course, it wasn't too long ago a presidential candidate or a party, I can't remember, stated that military veterans were terrorists.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there still trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
It doesn't make sense, right?
Doesn't make sense.
You got members of government saying military veterans are, radicalized terrorists. You got the president saying, "Go ahead, try to take a stand up for your government. We'll bomb you with F-15s." Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly. You think back to World War I, after World War I, the bonus marchers, a very forgotten part. But this is where all of the World War I veterans assembled on the mall in Washington, D.C., and the military was called in.
Yeah.
General Eisenhower and Patton were part
Douglas.
of that. Yes.
All the big ways. They're all lieutenants at the time.
They were called in to disband, and they used force all these World War I veterans during the Great Depression who were doing nothing more than asking for what Congress had promised them.
Yeah.
Congress had promised them a bonus.
Right. $40.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? $40. And they had been paid to you for like, what?
But we're going to take 20 years to pay it.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was. And so they're suffering. And they got nothing to lose. So, but yeah, it's.
I wrote my college paper on the bonus army.
Did you
or
really?
The Poosh coup, right? The White House Poosh is what it's called. A lot of weird stuff that's wrapped into that. You can go down a conspiracy hole if you want, but this is all certified in history. The Smedley Butler being asked by a group of socialists, predominantly Prescott Bush, to lead the bonus army and take over the United States through a armed insurrection using World War I veterans.
Yes.
Right? That is fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think they tried to get I can't think of his name. Not Roosevelt.
Truman? No.
No. Bull Moose guy. I can't think of his name. Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt, yeah.
Yeah, they tried to get him to do the same thing, but I think he saw through it and backed out. But yeah, it's crazy. It's interesting. I think there's always going to be a group of people not content on the way our government is organized.
Yeah.
And who will always try to resist, restrict, or even try to overthrow it as best as possible. But have you ever seen that movie? It's a long movie about the guy in the desert.
Lawrence of Arabia?
Lawrence of Arabia. The part I love the best is you got that pompous British agent.
Yeah.
Sitting there. And,
well played.
Yeah. After the fall of this city that they'd been fighting for years to try to get to. And the Arabs were now in charge of it, right? But nobody knew how to purify the water. Nobody knew how to tend to the wounded. Nobody knew how to make the electricity work and all of this, because while they had a plan to take over the city or to take over the government, they didn't have a plan for after that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of things part of my job, I always ask, okay, this is great, but what do we do after?
Yeah, and then what?
What comes up after that? How do we capitalize on this? How do we say, okay, we've taken this hill. Will we take it just for the view, or did we take it for an objective? What do we need this? Is this our stepping stone? Is this what we do next, and all of this? So, but yeah, I think we're always going to have people who are upset with us, and we're always going to have people of influence, people of means. We've got them today who are going to try to push their view of what America should look like moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's we've been in far worse times than we are today. That is for sure, right?
Yes.
I think both politically, economically, in all aspects. But I don't think we've been as divided, and I don't think we really are as divided as the media wants to present us to be, right? If you sit down and you have conversations in your local neighborhood, like, you're not going to see any of this stuff, right? But the government is doing a very good job of trying to stand in the way of you and your neighbor, right? And you and your doctor, or you and whatever the case may be. The government is just making a very hardline position in that, and it's been that way forever, right? You go back to the times of the Prohibition. Go back to the Patriot Act, right? What we're still experiencing there. So this was, the government is a brutalist system, and it's meant to smother and grind.
I thought it was supposed to help make our lives easier, but that ain't the case.
No, I think the Constitution, right, is the recipe that was given to us through the Constitution provides for a scrupulous government that the people can really be engaged in and hold accountable. I think where we are today after the 1947 National Security Act, we are nothing of what that used to be.
No.
This is a far different complex system that is, largely driven by our intelligence community, right? That's my opinion. Like, you look back to the CIA, that's all the 1947 Reconstruction was to build the United States military intelligence complex. And that's what we're largely living in right now.
Right.
And, the fear that I have with that, this could be good for business for the VFW is, when all this comes to a head, like, we're going to have some hard conversations that is going to be involved with exchanging a fire with Russia or China. Like that, we will not be able to escape that. What does that look like for you?
Professionally, personally?
However you feel.
Well, personally, I would like, I know last night I was back in Desert Storm. I know you were probably back in Iraq. That doesn't end for the millions of veterans out there. So personally, I would like for organizations such as the VFW to no longer exist because we no longer had the need for the warrior.
Right.
That's not the reality, though.
Yeah,
From biblical times forward, you're always going to have a warrior class, always. And you're going to have to empower that warrior class with that ability to defend that country in some of the most brutal ways possible. That would even go against teachings that a lot of the religious communities give. But you're going to have that. So I know that one of the things I work for daily is I want to make sure the veterans of foreign wars are still here in 100 years.
Yeah.
Not for me, not because I want people to say, oh, Dan West is. I care less. I'm just another brick in a wall. That wall is the veterans of foreign wars or America, however you want to call it that. But in 100 years, we're going to have that soldier, sailor, airman, marine, spaceman, Coast Guardsman, whatever we're calling them at the time. They're going to come back from that war. I'm predicting that war is going to be in Antarctica because we're fighting over fresh water supplies because that stuff's running out.
That's right.
Yeah, we can desalinate. If you've ever drank desalinated water, you know you never want to drink that shit again. That stuff will give you intestinal worms or something.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to start some theory on that now. So,
Dan West believes.
I'm telling you. So why not? I'm a subject matter expert on almost everything and nothing. So, but if we're not prepared for war, and I've noticed a cycle here, if you study history, we're never prepared for a war when it happens. Then we ramp up, we hold on, we ramp up, we get the war complex going, we win the war, and then it's too expensive to maintain that, so we downsize that. Then it's too expensive to maintain the warrior that we sent. And that's one of the things we're gearing up for right now is we've already started to see the rhetoric about it's too expensive to take care of America's veterans.
Oh, yeah.
It's too expensive to take care of America. Well, how much value do you put on your damn freedom and the fact you didn't go over there somewhere?
This, Dan, this is one of the most important conversations, right? And I'm glad that you opened the door for that. Is this shit that we're having to fucking deal with again is exactly what we were talking about during the time of the PACT Act, right?
Yes.
When those fools tried to put and parade the lies in front of the American people and saying the $400 million that were part of the discretionary spending of the PACT Act was. Or the mandatory spending of the PACT Act was a boondoggle, and all that money was going to be used for something completely different, and totally made up this fucking lie, right? To have it turned back around on them, through professionals and the work that we and you guys did at the VFW,
right?
To change that narrative, and we protected that money for the future warrior,
Correct.
Right? For as long time, right? But this is the United States government is, they're war happens at the failure of politics.
Yes.
And once the dust is settled, those same politics that sent those men and women to war are then looking at ways to defund the decisions that got them to where they had to make that call.
Well, exactly. But you'll notice every single time they got to give themselves a raise.
Oh, 100%. Like you got jackasses there. These assholes tried to sneak in the omnibus.
Yes.
Like what a 22% raise or some ungodly number? Like get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, give the raise, but you veterans, you're too expensive. We got to cut that. So
then you got veterans like Dan Crenshaw that are out there just grifting off of the entire community and making millions off of insider trading.
Yes. I saw something the other day I was reading. Like you, I read a little bit. I got past my Bugs Bunny cartoon one, so it was something about, and I can't remember who it was, but it was all about being an educated American. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be a citizen of this country, and I would go on to say a citizen of any country, you should understand your country's rules, its laws, what it's about, so that you're an informed and educated citizen to help your country be a better country.
Right.
If you're an ignorant citizen, you're not helping your country be a better country. So if anything comes out of this other than some of the foul language my grandmother's going to slap me on when I meet her one day, is be educated. Read about what's happening. Be informed. And don't. I love social media, I do, but it ain't always true.
Yeah,
so, multiple sources check multiple sources, like Fox, CNN, Reuters, Joe Rogan, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Where do you ever get your news?
Get multiple sources and then make your own decision. That's part of that dangerous liberty thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Being able to make your own decision with the information that you have available to you.
That's right.
And make sure that information's accurate. I mean,
yeah, you could. In today's America, you can only control yourself.
Correct.
That is it. Everything else is an unknown variable that you have no control over. All you can control are your faculties, your decisions, and the things that you're doing that affect other people. And if you can control that and be a good person, I think that will have a resounding effect. But here we are, thinking, shit, we are, I don't know, are we closer today to nuclear conflict than we were in 1963? I don't know, right? It sounds like it through the rhetoric and all of the display of new exotic weaponry that's being passed around the planet.
You know what I think we're closer to? Is an independent third party trying to make a statement who maybe gets their hands on. I mean, we've already had that with some of the subway bombings in Japan with chemical agents and biological stuff. It's just a matter of time before one of these radicals gets hold of a nuclear bomb or builds one.
Yeah.
The materials are out there. I think you can get most of them at Ace Hardware other than the plutonium, and you buy enough of those glowing watch things, I think you could
probably buy them up.
You'd be the Unabomber, taking all them match heads and,
and I think that's, you're right. I mean, the global war on terrorism brought forward the, conflict of non-nation state warfare, right? You're fighting against ideologies, right? But that conflict will only go so far. The technologies of warfare are changing to where we might not, the likelihood of seeing kinetic troop-on-troop warfare, it's not as high as it was in previous conflicts. Right? We have now drones. You're seeing, the implementation of all these, asymmetrical types of conflict, or even approaches in Ukraine, right? Between the Ukraine and Russian conflict, And I'm watching all that, and then I'm looking at the Marine Corps shut down parts of First Marines.
Like taking away all its tanks,
taking away the tanks,
really? Moving
into a littoral status. Like what? Okay, headquarters Marine Corps. I'll give you the Amtrak. The Amtrak was a stupid idea. I was an Amtracker, and that thing was dangerous.
It was mass metal coffin for Marines.
That's right. But taking away sure, we're going into a more of a littoral stage, and the Near East, conflicts, that are arising there, and putting Marines back on boats. Yeah. But what do we? Are we equipped for the next problem? Like, World War III is on the horizon. Like, are we equipped?
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to know the answer to that.
But it goes back to you said it previously. We are never equipped when war comes.
Exactly.
Right? And then we go through all the stages, the 3 stages of what that looks like. Yeah. And I think dangerously right now we're in that pre-stage, right? Everybody feels it.
Everybody, you can sit there and study all of the theories that the war colleges are coming out. They got plans to go to battle with every nation in the world. And, I think the big one they're planning on right now, of course, is the tensions with China.
Yeah.
And especially with Taiwan. What happens if China decides they're physically going to take the island of Taiwan? How does America get involved? How do we get involved? How do aircraft carriers and how do ships come into place at that time? Are we going to be flying planes over? Or do we get to that point now where manned aircraft, which is becoming more and more obsolete, becomes obsolete because now we got disposable drones that are just suicide drones, and they're doing nothing but flying, looking for anything to fly itself into. And so then because of the heat signature stuff, you got a bunch of Marines rowing a boat from Long Island, California to Taiwan just so they can get a foothold on a beach.
We've sure got a fishing at killing each other, man.
So.
Right? I mean, if we took half of that effort and, I don't know, put it towards curing cancer.
Yes.
Like, what kind of world would we be living in then?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But here we are, right? Dealing with some of the biggest challenges of the time, right? It's every day it's something new. Like, I think we all pick up our phone in the morning and be like, okay, let's be prepared for what happened over the evening.
Well, exactly. That's and that's one thing that I struggle with daily in the VFW is that nobody likes change. Nobody's prepared for change. But that is the one constant that we have in this world. Every day there's something new, different. There's something going on that creates what we used to do and makes it obsolete. I'm very famous for telling people we don't fight wars with muskets anymore.
Yeah.
The musket is still effective. It can still be used. We still manufacture the damn things, but we don't use them because something better came along.
Yeah.
All right. And you look at some of the stuff they're coming out now as a result of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm glad I'm old.
Yeah. Right. The ways that we've figured out how to take a life is incredible. It's incredible.
It is. There's this gun maker who wrote off to, I think it was Sam Colt, and asked him, how could I make a fortune in the firearms industry? And I think Colt, and I could be getting this wrong, but he wrote him back and said, well, it's just like a mousetrap. Come up with something better.
Yeah.
And this is, I believe it was Smith of Smith and Wesson, or Wesson of Smith and Wesson, who came up with the bored through cartridge.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So instead of having to load the powder and then load the ball into the Colt revolver, you just bore it out and just stick a cartridge in there. We're still using those things, you know. And
130 years later.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right?
Come up with something better, right? Yeah. It's part of, it's part of why I went into business. I think it's probably part of why you said, I think we can do this better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it's the, that's the one thing that humans are, you can look back through any point in our history of being on this planet is, we're always improving something. Always. Right? Doesn't matter what it is. We're always improving.
Have you ever watched on like, Facebook or whatever, there's bushcraft survival guys. They go out and they got a tree. Next thing you know, 30 seconds, they've built this shelter that's amazing. It looks like it's out of some Tolstoy show.
He's got a little toaster in there. He's making
I'm
some
just
food.
like, I want to do that for a living.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
like, man, that is the one thing I would say that I'm a bit jealous, or not even jealous. I think jealous is the wrong word. That I guess I'm envious of this generation that's behind us, is that you could be a creator and get paid gobs of money.
Yes.
Gobs of money for going out and being a bushmaster.
Yes.
And, showing people how to make a living quarters in a hollowed out tree.
Yes. When I was in high school, I got to ask my guidance counselor, what do you want to do when you graduate? And I told her, said, I want to hunt down Bigfoot.
Yeah.
She goes, what? She goes, yeah, I want to hunt down Bigfoot. Why would you want to do that? Well, think about it. If you're the guy that can prove Bigfoot exists because you either captured it or killed it, you're instantly famous overnight.
Right.
Instantly. And then wealthy, because the Smithsonian's going to want a sample,
Right. Oh, man. But, I have a theory about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a show for another time.
For another
Conspiracy
time?
theories.
All right.
Yeah. I want to shift some gears and talk about some of the things that are happening over at the VFW.
Okay.
You guys are doing some incredible things. Last November, we announced a working relationship with the Grunt Style Foundation and the VFW. Extraordinarily proud and excited about the work that we're doing there, right? And we're really focused on two big areas of part of your four legislative initiatives, right? Two of those being overprescribing of psychotropics within the veteran community, and then others being the other one being veteran suicide. And those are two big topics right now that I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about right now. Is I've got in my hands the 2023 National Veteran Suicide Prevention Report from the VA. That came right on the heels of the 2023 Department of Defense Veterans report. It's not looking good, right? In comparison to the 2022 VA's report that measured the 20 years of 2001 to 2020, they painted a grim picture, but at the end of that, it was, given a little bit of hope, saying that in 2019, 2020, we've seen a bit of a stabilization of suicides. 2023 report.
And how asinine is that statement?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Stabilization of suicides.
I might have colored that a little bit with my own words.
How about an eradication of suicides? That'd be
That's
much
how
better.
I think what we're all expecting. But so we get this 2023 report, and the numbers are coming back. Age and sex adjusted suicide rates within that period, 11.6% increase. You're seeing a 4 and that's against a 4.6% increase amongst non-veterans of the United States. Gender disparities, women taking their lives at a greater percentage of 24.1%, and the leading causes still within the veteran community. Second, among veterans among ages lower than 45 years old, suicide.
Yeah.
Man, I got to ask you at this point, none of the programs are working. Why are we continuing to invest in bullshit that's not working?
Well, I know the VFW, we're trying to change that course, as I'd like to do. It's something I heard, but, the VFW is a big ship. It takes a little bit to turn a big ship. So we've taken with the last three commanders and chiefs, and we have a new chief every year, but the last three have been very adamant about changing that direction, getting us moving into an area where we're actually serving as many veterans as possible, whether they're eligible for the VFW or not. And we've always strived to do that. I think at times we've fallen short because of past ideologies. However, investing into that stuff, it's like your daughter or your son comes to you and says, Dad, I did this, but I promise never to do it again.
Yeah.
can I have $5 more?
Right.
You know, I know we work closely with the VA, but we're also very critical of the VA when it comes time to do that. And Secretary McDonough has been very open with us. He wants to make things happen.
Agreed.
But a lot of times we get our hands tied by the bureaucracy. And I know that, and this is something I was talking to somebody a while back, you can take veteran suicide, you can take veterans being homeless, and you can take veterans unemployment, okay? All those are to me, they're all kind of intermingled. I've been working as an advocate in the veteran community for the last 29 years. Most of that here in Texas, helping veterans with any type of assistance that they might have needed to come across, a home, transportation, job, you name it. And there's some very dedicated people and some government agencies that are working hard to do that. But all of these are intertwined.
Yeah.
All right. And the one part that I didn't specifically mention, but it's probably a big part of the intertwining, is the VA healthcare system.
Yeah.
Okay. The VA healthcare system is the best healthcare system for veterans out there right now. And I'm going to tell you, there are people within my community who are going to tell you the VA sucks. I used to be one of those people. Well, it depends on what facility you're going to.
True.
I was going to a sucky facility. The new one I'm going to now is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have people tell you it's awesome. Okay, well, they're people. They're going to make these mistakes too. But here's where I think we could do a lot to help reduce veteran suicide. Because veteran suicide comes when somebody loses hope. Mm-hmm. All right? And when you lose hope, you don't really have anything else to fight for. And how do you lose hope? Well, you lose hope with the fact that you can't find a job. Or when you went and joined the military, you were 18 years old. Mom and dad said, you got to get a job. You still didn't know what you wanted to do, but you decided, I'm going to go join the Army because, Fred down the street joined the Army, and look what happened to him. So you go join the Army, and you get in the Army or the Marines or Navy or whatever service branch you join into. You're 18 years old. You spend 4 years, minimum of 4 years in there, and you travel the world. You get to do these things. You get to meet some people, and it's one of those bonding things that you think, man, this is awesome. But I ain't doing this forever. So I get out. You come home. Now you're 22 years old. You're a veteran. Where do you go home to? Well, if you're like most veterans I know, you didn't get paid a lot. And what money you had, you probably spent buying a car you couldn't afford. You might have acquired a wife or two and some kids. So now you're out and you got responsibilities, and you go back home where your mom and dad are at. Because that's what you know. It's your base camp.
Yeah.
And mom and dad want an adult. And all you did at 18 was change one set of parents for another. So when you come home, you still have that responsibility of the wife, the car payment, the kids, but you don't have that job skill. The skill that you had in the military could have been an infantry guy. And all of a sudden you realize all that qualifies you for is being a security officer. Maybe you are in logistics, so now you're driving a forklift somewhere. If you're successful, you can tie that in and make a very successful living out, but very rarely, because now you're competing with everybody else. So you lose hope. I can't get a job. I can't get this. The kid got sick. The wife got sick. Mom and dad are pressuring me to do all of this. And so that's a lot of pressure for a 22-year-old that everybody wants to be an adult who was never taught how to be an adult.
Yeah, has lived in an insulated environment.
Exactly. So what I would like to see happen is I want you to think of a police officer, okay? We have some excellent law enforcement people all across this land, and here's what we do to help that law enforcement officer be successful. First thing we do is we make sure they're a strong moral character, all of that good stuff. So they're passing some type of background check, all right? They're good people. Second thing we do is we give them some training. We give them training in de-escalation techniques and how to use a command voice or a command presence. And then we put them in a uniform. That uniform signifies I'm the person in charge. I'm the authority figure, so everybody recognizes it and responds to it. No, that's the person I can go to for help. And then we put this belt around this officer, and on this belt we put a lot of different things. We put a radio so he can communicate to get extra help if he needs it, or whatever he might need. We put a baton on there because, you know, sometimes guys get squirrely. You got to knock them on the head every now and then. So we put a baton on there. But, you know, sometimes that baton don't work. All right, so what do we put? We put some OC spray, you know, some good pepper spray. We put that on there because, you know, you spray somebody in the face with that crap, and it blinds them. Now they can't see. Sometimes that don't work. So now we put a taser on there. All right, it's just because some people got to get tased because the OC spray didn't work, you know. And
it's hopped up on PCP.
I'm telling you, sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
All right, and then in the rare cases, they've got that firearm.
Yeah.
That's 5 tools on that belt, not including the tools they're taught to work with. And you know what we give our VA doctors? You can only prescribe medicine.
Yeah. That's.
We don't give them all these other tools. There are other tools out there. When I first got back with my PTSD, they put me on this cocktail of mixture that made me feel like a zombie. I started having some of the most radical, weird-ass dreams you could ever imagine. I quit taking them because it was detrimental to my health, and I knew it was, and nobody would listen to me. So I just quit taking them. But I didn't stop looking for treatment options. I got involved with the VA mental services, and a good guy, Jerry Sharp. He's retired, been retired for a long time now, but he helped me greatly understand what PTSD is, what my triggers were, and he got me into experimental study now that is now part of the VA system. It was called rapid eye movement. Basically reliving all of this while you're watching something go back and forth, and it helped me. Did it cure me? No, but it helped me. It helped me identify that when I see blinking Christmas lights at Christmas, it's Christmas lights, and it's not an oil lamp in the middle of a trench where an Iraqi's trying to kill me. It helped me understand that difference, so that when I started to get triggered, I knew, hey, I got to back out of here. That's why I only shop at midnight in the middle of the store. Thank goodness for home delivery shit now, because my wife won't let me go because I run. Don't you hate it when somebody parks their cart in the middle of the aisle and then walks off? And you're like, what the hell, I can't get around you. So, you know what? To me, it's a challenge. Bumper cars at United, you know? I'll just bump the shit out. And they go, well, excuse me, yeah, you shouldn't have left it there. What the hell?
Right.
Anyway, so my goal would be out of our partnership is to let our brothers and sisters know they're not alone to start with. There is hope.
Yeah.
We just got to get you hooked up with the right battle buddy.
That's right.
Okay? The second thing we need to do is we need to help our VA doctors. And it doesn't matter if they're VA doctors or civilian doctors through the community care. But we need to help our VA doctors have those tools made available to them. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is through our legislative process. And that's where our D.C. office comes in. We've got a long list of things that we've been fighting for and advocating for years that we're really starting to get out and ramp back up, because we don't want to tell the widow of a veteran, I'm sorry we couldn't help your husband, because the only thing we could do is prescribe him medication that gave him hallucinations.
Yeah.
That was the only option we have. No, we got a whole list of other options out there. I know your folks and we've talked about some of the different psychedelic drugs. I know we've got some stuff the VA is asking. They're asking for our help, and that's what we're trying to do, is make sure those doctors have more tools that they can use to help veterans, because every veteran is different. Their experiences are all different. Their body chemistry is different. They all react differently to certain things. So if we can do our part to take care of what we've got right now, but then also make sure our doctors have those tools in their toolkit.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have more successful outcomes that will eventually eradicate that veteran suicide rate. I think we're always going to have that. I mean, suicide's always been there. You get some people who are raised with a strong sense of right and wrong, and they do something shameful, and they're too embarrassed. They don't want to face the people they love with something they may have done. I've seen that before.
Yeah.
I've also seen the guys hang themselves trying to jack off. That I could never understand, and I've got no
David
desire
Carradine.
to even try to recreate it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
fucking
how would that
weirdo.
be pleasurable? you know, I'm sitting there. So,
I mean,
I'm sorry, I told you. My mind's going
well, these
crazy.
are real questions, Dan.
Yeah, they're real. Let
you know
me
what?
say
I don't
this.
want to be
the
found.
views of Dan West are not necessarily the views of the veterans of foreign wars.
But these are questions that are asked in the barracks.
Yes, they are. So,
Oh my God! Yeah. I think I don't disagree with what you said, right? I believe that the VA in totality is a good system.
Right.
I think that there are pockets of bad actors.
Yes.
There are pockets of bad medical coverage that are happening, and there's plenty of deserts that
Right.
there's nothing for the veteran. So I understand all that. I think my biggest challenge is, and it's not too different from what is being experienced in the private healthcare industry, is that we are living in a medical environment where the doctors are prescribing the solutions to the symptoms, or
Yes.
they're masking the problem by treating the symptom. And there's a lot of data here I've got in front of me right now. 68% of all veterans that enter the VA system are being treated with a psychotropic medicine.
Yes.
68%, right? So
somebody at the VA is making some money off of that.
somebody is, right? We know
drug
how it all
companies.
works. The drug company comes in, they say, hey, we've got Zoloft 2.7.
That's it.
And for this amount, we could be prescribing it to all of your
Yes.
patients, right? So that's how this shit works, right? So generally a very good-looking male or female that comes into these offices and
Follow the
wines and
money.
dines the doctors, right?
That's it.
But when 68% of the veterans are being prescribed these things when they're coming in looking for help, and then you got organizations out there that are trying to create different lanes of opportunity of more holistic approaches like equestrian therapies, REM,
Right.
talk therapy, all these others. I don't think the current paradigm is going to allow. Again, the numbers speak for themselves. It's going to allow for those holistic approaches to even exist, right? In a way that's going to be beneficial for the individual to get that hope that you're talking about. Because the first case is, 68 out of every 100 people are coming in are going to get a psychotropic
Right.
before they get anything else.
Correct.
And
Because there's no other tools available to them.
And that goes to the point of the tool belt, right? And we sit here and we're talking and we're saying, okay, all right, we've got over 40,000 veteran service organizations in the United States. All 40,000 of these organizations are doing something towards veteran suicide prevention. But the
So
numbers
they
are still
say.
going up.
So they say.
So they say, right? But the numbers are still going up. The suicides are, in my belief, going to get far worse over the next 7 years because we're still dealing largely with the Vietnam veteran cohort. There are GWAT individuals that are taking their lives. I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm saying majority is not the GWAT people. So when those people go into retirement, we're gonna have a much different problem in our hands.
We are going to have a much different problem. So as that warrior ages, they get to that point where they have disposable time and disposable income.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you have disposable time, you got to fill it with something, or the bad thoughts come back.
Yeah.
And
The devil's idol's hands, right?
that's it. And it's not so much bad thoughts as it is bad memories. And those bad memories, like I said, I was in Desert Storm last night. That happens several times a week, all right? But I know I wake up that morning, I got a bunch of different things to do. That's part of why I love the VFW
Yeah.
is I don't have to do this for a living. I do it for a living because I was asked to. And I was asked to because the main purpose I am in the VFW is to repair my soul.
Yeah.
I was asked to do some things for my country. I'm proud of what I did for my country. My religion, on the other hand, had always taught me don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's fine. I get it. But I need to repair my soul, so I know the more people that I can help, the better I feel.
Yeah.
And the less those intrusive thoughts come in to help do that. Now, I've never really wanted to harm myself because I figured it would put more of a hardship and burden on my family than it would me just escaping. And I'm one of those highly competitive guys. If I start to lose, I just put it in the afterburners.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose as second place,
Right.
not third.
Right.
But our suicide rate is going to increase. I just foresee that happening. I know from my own experiences, veterans like you that served in Iraq, Afghanistan, the Horn of Africa, wherever, that had these different experiences, I've lived through some of that. I know that it's coming, and I don't know that there's anything we or any other organization can do to prepare for what's coming other than to do exactly what we're doing now, talking.
Yeah.
And hoping that we reach that one person. You know, I was telling somebody, have you ever heard the story about the starfish? So the way the story goes is this individual and his daughter went down to the beach. And on the beach, there were thousands of starfish that had washed up overnight. And down in the distance, they see this one guy, and he's picking starfish up and throwing them back into the water as he's walking. And so they finally meet, and the dad asks, he said, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm throwing starfish back in. Most people don't know this. Starfish can't survive unless they're in the water, so all of these will die. And the guy looked at him and said, but there's thousands of them. What difference can you make? And the guy held up one starfish and he said, to this starfish is all the difference in the world, and threw it in the water. And the daughter picked up and started throwing. Next thing you know, all three of them were throwing starfish back in the sea. And so that's kind of what I see what we're doing here.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to hit one veteran out there. And if you're that veteran in need, don't be afraid to reach out, all right? It's never a shame or a crime or anything to reach out and say, hey, I need some help.
Yeah.
In the military, I call that passing the ammo. I need some more ammo. I'm running out. I need some more ammo. Give me some encouragement. Give me something so that I can continue to fight. And
Keep the cyclic rate going.
Exactly. You know, so I call it pass the ammo because that's exactly what it is, pass the ammo.
Yeah.
We need all of you, regardless of where you think you're at.
Yeah, and it's not sexy work, right? Veteran suicide is it's not the range day, it's not the blowing up stuff, it's not going out there doing all the cool guy stuff, cool gal stuff, but it's the important work.
It is the important work, and more often than not, I get yelled at by somebody who I can't give you $10,000 to pay for your gambling habit. I just can't do that. That's not going to happen. But more often than not, I get that. And then when I tell them no, well, you don't help veterans.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to have a thick skin to some degree.
You really do, because it's the veteran cohort is a fickle bitch.
It is, and it's kind of like that inter-service rivalry.
Yeah.
We're all service members.
Yeah.
Somebody from outside of that group picks on one of us, you pick on all of us. But within our own circle, we like to pick on each other. And, I think some veterans even take it to the point where they do more than pick.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys recently had a little bit of a touch and go with that, with a veteran influencer.
We did. Veteran with a sign, I believe. And kudos to him. He's found a way to make some money by being a veteran, holding up a sign.
Yeah.
You know, and what's interesting about that is that he was. We're engaged in a awareness campaign with what we call claim sharks.
Okay. Yeah.
Claim sharks are basically agencies, companies, or attorneys. Not so much the attorneys, but they're not accredited to help veterans file their disability claims. Federal law is very clear on who can be accredited, what that accreditation process is, and all of that stuff. And your veteran service organizations have been providing that free of charge to the veteran. We've been doing it for over 100 years. American Legion does it. DAV does it.
Yeah. It's the benefit of having an organization over 1 million people, right? You get to,
and you don't even have to
others.
be a member. We don't charge for it. Now, can it be timely? Can it be consuming? Yes. And we're in an instant gratification society, so everybody wants answers immediately. And there's a legal process that involves this. And so some companies have discovered, I can help you write a nexus letter, or I can help get you in touch with a physician who will lean towards helping you prove what you need to prove. And that's against the law. The problem that we've experienced is Congress several years ago took out the penalty provision. So it's still against the law, but if you violate it, it's like the flag code.
Yeah.
You violate the flag code, the flag police ain't going to come arrest you. It's the same thing here.
As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, it comes down to how the legalese around the word agent is codified.
That's it. And, you got these companies and agencies out there who are saying that the service organizations are just trying to preserve. You know what? If I would love to charge money. I don't get $1 from the federal government. I got to go out and ask 55 million people every year to donate $1 to us. Most of them don't. Some of them do. Yeah. All right. I would love to be able to charge veterans because you know why? You've proven that business model works, Mr. Claim Shark. You've made billions of dollars, millions of dollars off of veterans by charging them money to process their paperwork. Well, you think how much good that would do for an organization like the VFW. I wouldn't have to worry about funding the jobs and livelihood of 200 people every year. Yeah. That's an annual thing for us.
Now, would that so the biggest problem, as I understand, with the Claim Shark side, which is bringing rise to veterans taking a position one side or the other, right? It's really what's happening. Is like if the VFW was to take on the practices models of the private industry and starts charging, would that increase the timelines or decrease the time of getting of the findings? So
no, but let me back up here. The VFW is never going to adopt charging.
No, I know that. Yeah.
Ever. So that's part of our mission. Is what we do. We are truly trying to help our brother veterans out. It's not going to increase. You're talking about the VA.
Right.
When was the last time you worked with a government agency? Go down to DMV. See how long it takes you to get your driver's license. Right. And if I told you I could help you get your driver's license faster, are you really going to believe that I can help you get your driver's license faster if you pay me more money? No, that ain't going to happen. I'm just going to help you fill out the paperwork, which our people do for free. And you're going to go submit it. And then you got to wait on the VA to take care of it. So it's not going to help expedite anything. What it might help expedite, and this is something that we've seen happen, the Justice Department is already investigating this. Just like Medicare fraud. Yeah. You got doctors who are writing prescriptions or writing nexus letters that maybe ain't exactly truthful because they got paid to do so. And if you're paying that, now you're part of this criminal conspiracy, and we're concerned about veterans who get caught up in this. Because remember, they left when they were 18 years old. Now they're out at 22. Everybody's expecting them to be an adult. They don't necessarily understand all that legalese. We'd be glad to help them for free.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
And the rules aren't going to speed up. Following the rules or not following the rules aren't going to speed up that process at the VA. It might speed up, you need a nexus letter to start with to be able to prove this. Well, how do I get a nexus letter? Well, you got to go get a doctor that says they know this happened while you were in the service, even though this is the first time you've ever met that doctor. He can examine my medical records.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is there any evidence that suggests or that exists that going through the private routes, shaves off time? Because anecdotally, we hear from individuals that are participating there that, I've got my claim back in 3 weeks. It would have taken me 9 months if I used the VFW.
So I know this started here in Texas. It's called the prepared claims or something. In other words, your service officer has prepared the full claims package before it even gets sent off. Now, I'm working for the VA. If I'm working for the VA and this is my job is to go through and make sure they have everything I need to check off the boxes that my supervisor is going to check. And if I go through there and I see, you still need this, I now have to take this package, send it back to the veteran and say, you need this.
Yeah.
Now, if I go through and I find he's got everything in there, now I can send it over to the next guy who's going to look at the rating schedule. So yes, a fully prepared claim will go through a little bit faster than one that is just willing to, because, we still got veterans out there who think they're so smart they can do this themselves.
Sure, yeah.
And some do. All right. Kudos to you. All right. But you're not ever going to represent yourself in a court of law without an attorney.
Right.
Because, you can, but why would you?
Right.
And if this attorney ain't costing you anything, why not use somebody who does this as their living? All right. So there are a fully prepared claim when it's initially submitted can reduce the wait times, but getting it back in 3 weeks, I've heard of that. I will tell you, it took me 20-something years for me to get to where I'm at, and that was constantly going in, working with the VA, making sure. And I never did find a doctor who could write me a nexus letter based off of my military service if he wasn't there.
Yeah. I ask this question a lot, in just conversations. I get the privilege of talking to a lot of different people. And I ask where's the evidence? What evidence exists that going through the private route is, faster than going through a VSO or an organization that's credited? And I have not defined any evidence that exists, right? And I'm not taking a position one way or the other, right? I've got my own disabilities, and I'm quite content. But I know there's a lot of individuals out there that are listening and they're watching this conversation and they're looking at the position that the VFW is taking. They're looking at the counter positions of the private market. Providing a business model for expedition, but I just don't see the data that shows that they're expediting anything.
There is no expedition there. Now, I will tell you, like any other true flag-waving American, I do believe in freedom of choice. Okay, and our veteran service organizations like the VFW, the American Legion, well, there's some choice. You also have your county veteran service officers. There's some choice there. And I'm not necessarily opposed. If somebody wants to go pay a bunch of money to have somebody do this, fine. The VFW stance is that person needs to be an accredited agent to represent you. Yeah. In other words, essentially they're almost acting as your fiduciary. They should put your interest ahead of their own. And when you pay somebody, are they really putting your interest ahead of their own when it comes to getting these claims? Because if you pay them and they're unable to provide those results for you, are you going to continue to pay them? I will tell you daily, we get complaints from veterans who have used claim sharks, and we take their statements and we help them get out. We show them the legal process for this, and we'll help them try to get out of that stuff, because we've got some veterans now that have basically said this agency they use will get a percentage for their lifetime.
Really? Lifetime?
Yeah. I'm sitting there thinking, how the hell does that work? And if there's any increase, they get a percentage of that, even if they never helped them.
Holy shit.
On that increase stuff. So, yeah, there's, what the sad part of this is, Tim? Most of these agencies have veterans that are running them.
Yeah.
All right. And I get it. They're trying to feed their family too. But, I didn't feed my family by betraying my brothers when they were under attack. I came to their aid, is what I did. And I didn't then go say, hey, well, I'll throw these grenades downrange if you'll pay me some money. I mean, no. Come on. That's crazy stuff there. But our D.C. office, Mike Figlioli, takes care of our accreditation. We've got, I want to say over 2,000 accredited people that work for the VFW out there. We'll cross accredit. There's some paperwork you got to go through and all that. And asking somebody to be accredited is simply doing nothing more than following the law. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's following the law.
Right.
So,
and you guys put some legislation forward, at the federal level, but I believe now it's more being worked at the state level to regulate some of what's happening.
So one of the things we did as we started calling out the claim sharks for what they were, and it's really Congress is taking away the enforcement provision.
Yeah.
If they would allow that enforcement provision in there, the VA sends them cease and desist letters. That's how we know they're claim sharks, because we get the cease and desist letter from the VA. But the VA can't enforce it because there's no provision.
Because they removed that.
Our legislators, in their infinite wisdom of trying to make life easier for us, decided, let's take this enforcement provision out. Nobody's going to miss it anyway, So yeah, they took that out. But I completely forgot where I was going with that. But the whole thing here is, I'm not ever going to advocate that the VFW start charging. And I'm not going to advocate that there should be a pay-to-play option. I know that's part of goes against our American sense, because you can pay an attorney, there are accredited attorneys out there. You can pay them, but their fees are capped by law. So if you're going to pay, let's get some protections for that veteran in there. But there's no way you're going to expedite how the VA processes this paperwork other than submitting a fully developed claim.
Yeah.
And we're doing that as much as possible right now.
Yeah.
So we can submit a thing called notice of intent to file, so that preserves your date, and then you've got a year to present all of that stuff. I think it's a year.
Yeah,
I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. So I already know I'm going to get hit by the Midwest over my use of foul language. But, you know what? I'm among a brother here.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We
don't listen if you don't like it, right?
That's right. Sticks and stones, people. Let's get back to the basics. Yeah. But I appreciate you putting a little bit of color to that, because I watched a little bit of that tangle happen on the social medias. It certainly was a dust up that brought a lot of opinion and some vitriol to the conversation. I think that, again, it just puts a further magnification glass, I guess, or magnifier on the idea that we will tear down our own community,
Sure,
very quickly, And I think we could do better than that, right?
We can do better than that.
Holding ourselves accountable is one thing,
Right.
And I'm all about it, right? I'll use every aspect of the channels and the audiences that I've built over the years at Grunt Style with many others, and leverage those opportunities when the time is right.
Tim, real fast, because I've forgotten this twice while we've been talking. So at our national convention every year, we invite the VA adjusters. They will actually come, set up a space there, and any veteran can bring all of their paperwork in, and they can come see that VA adjuster who will sit there. They will evaluate them. We've had people receive on-the-spot decisions where the next day money was in their bank account.
Yeah.
All right. I haven't seen any other organization be able to do that. I think the Legion does it, but I just wanted to make sure you know that the VA comes to our national convention where any veteran can come to and talk to those VA adjusters and claims agents directly.
Yeah, but I think it's maybe something to talk about offline. On that is, we should do something here at Grunt Style once a month in any one of our facilities, and maybe
I know some people.
Do just claims day,
a claims clinic.
Yeah, claims clinic. I like that. All right, but again, like. Holding our people, holding our community accountable. That's important.
Yeah.
Using our platforms to call out wrong or is appropriate.
Right. Yeah. The VFW. I love criticism. As a former business owner, the only way I could get feedback is if somebody told me.
Yeah.
Did I do this right? Did I do this wrong?
Yeah.
So we're not afraid of criticism. We get criticized all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just part of the thing here. But if you're doing it in the intent to tear down and destroy, I think that's wrong. If you're trying to do it to help maintain and preserve or even increase or be better, then bring it on.
Yeah.
Constructive criticism all day long, I'll take. But if you're going to start ranting at me about how we're doing everything wrong because it ain't done your way, okay. Yeah. you may get the voicemail next time you call.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Where do I want to go next? Man, we covered a lot of stuff today, Dan.
Well, it's always there. So let's talk a little bit about what we're working on for the future.
Yeah,
how about that?
2025.
So one of the things that, and we alluded to this earlier, is, the war is over. People are talking about, veterans are getting too expensive. There was an article in The Economist that came out, a anonymous article. There was no author attributed to it, but it was published. And our stance here is that it's the cost of war. If you're going to send your young men and women into harm's way and they get injured, you need to help take care of them for as long as they maintain those injuries. So every service member signs a contract. A contract has 4 parts to it. The first 3 are about you saying, yes, I will no longer be a civilian. I will follow the rules and orders. I know I can be put into combat or dangerous situations. So the first 3, service member has to uphold to its government. Mm-hmm. You know what the 4th one is? Mm. That the government will take care of you. Mm. And that's all we're asking. Yeah. Honor the contract. We signed it. You asked us to. We did. I mean, we continue to go the road we're going. We've already got recruiting shortages. So what happens when we run out of volunteers to maintain a force that's viable enough to just staunch any oncoming aggression? Well, you better get ready for the draft. Yeah. Whether you're prepared for it or not, whether you think, or
even just a consignment, mandatory
something,
service. Yeah.
we'll waylay you down. Don't go visit the San Antonio Riverwalk. You'll get hit on the head by the Navy recruiter, and tomorrow you'll wake up on a ship.
Simpler times.
Yeah, so in March, we have our Commander-in-Chief's testimony comes up. We testify before a joint committee on Veterans Affairs there in Congress every year, and it's something I've been going to for at least 25 years, and it is kind of inspiring to be in the same room as all of our congressional representatives are, senators and congressmen, and listen to the questions they ask and listen to the chief's testimony. And our Washington office spends a lot of time with members out in the field.
Oh, yeah.
What's the issue? What's going on? And the other thing that we do during this time, it's in March coming up here, first week in March, I think March 1st through the 6th. We'll have about 800 to 1,000 VFW members. You can't miss them. They're all wearing the VFW hat, that overseas cover nobody likes to wear. But actually, if you study the history of it, you'll understand why it's important. I like the cap because it says you're a veteran from whatever angle you're looking at it. You don't even have to. I used to wear one when I was a 15-year-old at McDonald's. It was a paper one. But VFW cover says that's a veteran. Okay, so there will be about 800 to 1,000 of us, and we have members from every state, including countries in Europe and Asia. We come to D.C. during this week, and we can't say storm the hill anymore, but we'll go. We have a full-time office. It's just right across the street.
You
So
throw one election, you can't use a term ever again.
I'm telling you can't storm the hill no more. So, but we can definitely walk the halls of Congress. In some of our cases, they're rolling because they're in a power chair or something. But what's interesting about this, Tim, is that everybody thinks the VFW is a bunch of old guys, old girls. It's not necessarily true. Yes, we have an average age. It's just over 70 right now. But the people that you see coming here, you're going to see people still in their early 30s.
Oh, sure.
We've got some state commanders that we're very proud of.
Your legislative director, Christina Keenan.
She
is a powerhouse. I worked with her on the PACTAC. She's incredible, and she's such a great representative of our cohort.
Yes, she is. She does a fantastic job. Our entire DC team does a great job. So people ask me, can you explain the VFW and how it's, and I said, well, sure. So the VFW is an army. I got battalion commanders in every state, all right? And every army has a special forces, right? That's our DC office because they're engaged every day in that sometimes clandestine warfare. Hey, go over here because so-and-so from this committee is going to be there. You need to rub elbows with them or whatever.
Right.
They got all that down. I'm not much of what you would call a politician, so I cuss too much. Even though I found out that's a sign of intelligence.
Yes.
I figure the more I cuss, the more of a role model I'll be to somebody in 20 years. My grandson maybe, but so we got this testimony coming up. This testimony is going to be important in that our commander-in-chief right now is probably going to be our last Vietnam veteran. Who will testify before that. And he's got an interesting background, but he's going to testify. He's an infantry platoon commander who was injured during an attack in Vietnam. He lost some of his troops. He carries those with him every single day. But his testimony is going to be the weapons of war may have changed, but the warrior has not. And it's important for you to continue to take care of the warrior, because if you don't take care of your warrior from yesterday, then the warriors of tomorrow will never step up, and you will have to go to Shanghai and conscription and
That's right.
and all of that stuff just to
It was one of the first things George Washington said, right? Was
Yes.
about the strength of the United States of America. He said you can judge the strength of a country by the way they treat their veterans.
That's correct.
And we've done a very good job over correcting our public display of affection towards veterans since Vietnam.
Right.
But we have conditioned ourselves in a way that I say, if you listen to this program a lot, you've heard me say it, that we say, thank you for your service as I step over your homeless ass on the street. And that's just the way it is, right? So the choices that we need to be making is like, how do we do a better job of illustrating the benefits of being a veteran or military service to the individual, that they will want to step into that lifestyle and then exit that lifestyle and be a productive member of their community?
That's if you'd asked me a couple years ago, I would have told you that's the recruiter's job, but I don't think so much anymore. I think it's society's job.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think you'll recognize this is that over the last probably 10 years, all we see is about the poor veteran.
Yeah, yeah.
Veteran needs help, give us money. The veteran needs this, give us more money. Veterans can't do this. Veterans are running people over now and killing them. Look how bad veterans are. Veterans are homegrown terrorists. They're dangerous and all of that stuff. And what person would really want to be associated with that? Well, as with anything, that's maybe 0.0001% of what actually happens.
Yeah.
The military is still a great place to go to get an education, to further your education. I saw this sign that says, I walked for my college, or I marched for my college education too. And of course, it was a whole line of infantry guys with packs on their back.
Right, right.
Because after you do a 4-year stint, you've got that GI Bill that you get to use. My son's using that right now. He served in the Air Force. And yes, I told him he wasn't qualified to be a Marine, even though a Marine drill instructor raised him.
That's what I said to my son.
He's not comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I didn't make him live in a tent in the backyard. I actually gave him a bed and a cot and a basic issue.
Four hots.
Yeah,
Maybe 3.
So
not everybody gets the mid-rat.
But I'm very proud of my son. Both my sons actually, but he got injured and ended up having to get out because of his injuries. But everybody sees these veterans because that's what we're advertising, is that they're damaged, they're broken.
It's
now,
garbage.
What I have found interesting, though, you watch some of your popular shows like FBI and all that, you've got characters that are veterans that served in all of these different things. So they're being shown more in a positive light, you think back to our World War II generation, some of the movie stars that came out of there that served their country before they even thought about that or left a career to go serve their country. It was that patriotism, and that's what I mean about it's society. It's our job. We should honor our warriors who are willing to go into the service, to sacrifice time away from their family to serve our country so that the majority of us can enjoy that time.
Yeah,
so we really need to do a better job as a society in recognizing, and I think for the most part we have. I will guarantee you this, if I were to put on my VFW cap and I went to a McDonald's or somewhere like that and stood in line, about a 90% chance I wouldn't have to pay for my food.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'm not going there to get free food. It's just an illustration that there are people in our society who recognize and want to honor. A lot of them will do it anonymously, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But so as a society, we need to continue to honor our veterans, continue to say thank you to them. I used to get so upset when people would say, well, thank you for your service. And I'm like, well, I didn't do anything. Now I realize it's something they didn't do, and they want to say thank you and so I said, well, thank you. It was an honor.
Yeah.
And it truly was. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now you got to ask me more questions.
Well, I think I think that's a great point. Is we've all come across those individuals like, I would have joined, but I would have kicked my drill instructor's ass.
Yeah,
sure you would.
Exactly. I've seen those guys.
Yeah. And they're great people, I'm sure.
Yes, they are.
But at the same time, we get, unlike the greatest generation, right? And this is probably a numbers, just by sheer volume of numbers, right? I think the number was something to the tune of like 18 million people, Americans fought in World War II. It was some large number.
Yes,
yeah,
18 million.
It was large in comparison to the 4.5 million over 20 years that fought in GWOT.
More people fought in World War II during that 5-year time frame than served in Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and I think Iraq, Afghanistan now.
Right.
It's just now starting to get close to that.
So big scale of people there. And of that generation, you've seen so many people that had come out of that and become, to your point, actors, magnets of business, yada, yada, yada. I don't really see a lot of that coming out of this generation, right? There are business owners, there are business leaders, right? But there are actors, there are politicians, but not to the likings of what you would see, like, name somebody from...
Captain Kangaroo,
right? Like,
yeah.
Almost every individual that we grew up with was a veteran of the war, right?
Correct.
And they were influencing something in society at that time. They found something beyond their military service that was providing value to culture, to community, to the idea of America. Do you see it the same way today? Is patriotism dying, or is there a level of engagement that is just not the same, or is it just an economy of scale?
I think it's all the above. The economy of scale, I think, is a big thing. There's 500 million, 50 billion more people now today than there was back 70, 80 years ago now. So there's that. There's also the technology aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because of the video camera and social media, anybody can be a movie star now because we got social media stars. I mean, both of our organizations are paying social media influencers.
Right.
I want to give a shout out to somebody because I do believe he is doing what he can to help America, and that's David Bellavia, Medal of Honor recipient. He was one of our keynote speakers at our convention last year. Great individual because of his American spirit, and I know that his main fame comes from his receiving a medal where he was just doing his job, and he'll tell you that. He's very humble. But he's a very proud American, comes from an American family that's very patriotic, and he very much wants to, like as you and I do, want to get the American esprit de corps back into Americans.
Yeah.
I also think there's a lot of chasing the money.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that everybody is somewhat motivated by to some degree. I mean,
greed is in everything.
Greed is definitely there. Hell, it's even in the church to some degree. So I think that I know when I came back and got out of the service after my 11 years in, I had a hard time transitioning back and trying to find a job. So money became a motivating factor for me. But my character also kept me from being the strip dancer at the male strip club again. But I instead
keyword again.
Well, there was 3 weeks of my life. You women are crazy, by the way. I'm just telling you. So So, but I collected beer cans on the side of the road to make sure my kids had some food to eat, And I did that, but I kept trying. And I guess, we were talking earlier about dangerous freedom. If you never quit, I believe that's what America is based off of, is that you can try and fail, and that's not the end.
Right.
You can try again, or you can try something else again, or you can get up and move and go somewhere else. You can continually try to improve yourself. You have those opportunities.
You could be the biggest failure in America and still be the richest individual at heart.
Yes, you can. Or you can be elected to Congress, too. So.
Ain't that the truth?
All you need to do is get votes at that time, and as long as you don't write the checks,
That's so sad.
Nobody would ever buy a vote. So,
would you ever run for office, Dan?
I've been asked. In fact, I did.
Oh, really?
I got beat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got asked to run for city council in the city of San Marcos like 20 years ago.
All right. Yeah.
All right. I had a great platform. It was all about taking care of the economy and taking care of what we had going on at the time. And I was at this League of Women Voters debate, and I got asked this question that stumped me. I'd never heard it before. What do you think about green space?
What the fuck is that?
Exactly. I may have uttered that. So green space is park space.
Okay.
All right. And I said, well, I gave one of those. It was probably the one time in my life where I tried to bluff my way through something. In Marines that teach false motivation is better than no motivation.
Right.
I tried to false motivate my way through that.
No,
shit.
but they weren't having it. No.
I came in. I came in third place out of a 4-person race, so I didn't finish last.
So you didn't get that first loser.
But I will tell you this: it did spark an interest in me to learn more about.
Oh, sure, yeah, the process.
Government and the process and all of that stuff. Now, some people will say I've entered politics in that the positions I have held in the VFW. I even wrote a book on how to campaign for a VFW position, believe this or not. In the VFW, these are elected positions. So when you're at your local post, all of the people you serve with there, they decide, are you going to be the commander or any other position? So I got elected to commander 5 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. And
is that a curse?
Well, I say 3 to 5 years is a good time frame for a commander, but you need to move on, let somebody else get that experience. And then I got elected 2 years as the district commander, and that was where instead of the post, there were like 15 or 16 other posts, and they all came together and said, yeah, you should be the district commander. And then later on, I got elected as state commander, and at the time there were 340 posts in Texas, and I had 3 people I was running against. One of them had been a former state commander from it, so they ran there, and then I had to run for national council member against a very formidable opponent who he just checked all the boxes. But the one thing I think, and we talked about, I'm a straight shooter.
Yeah.
If you're getting screwed, I'm going to tell you, yeah, you're getting screwed. Not much I can do about it except watch sometimes,
Right.
So, I'm not videoing it, so I'm not going to make money off of it. But I try to be a straight shooter. And, I've never believed that you should acquiesce to what people there are saying, because they said, well, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
So be proud of who you are. Stand up for what you
have
believe in.
Have some conviction.
Exactly. Even if it makes you enemies.
Yeah.
Okay. But at least you've got the respect of knowing.
Yeah. That's I'd say the greatest gift that I've ever received in probably my adult life was a little ditty called JJ the Turnbuckle.
Oh, yeah.
Because all those character values and leadership traits were things that I had no concept of as a young man, right? They were just words to me. And singing a little ditty to make me remember here 35 years later. But, as I
couldn't begin to tell you. I know what JJ did tie buckle is.
Right.
I couldn't tell you what each word is. I might get one right.
Yeah.
So,
but I learned through my trials and errors, coming up to the rank of E5, what all those things really were, and how to implement them in my life in the ways that were important. And I think that was probably, again, the greatest gift that was given to me, illustrated to me, shown to me. And I have great NCOs that further drove that into me. And then I had some extraordinarily shitty NCOs that I watched that like, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. You can learn a lot from not doing something. Don't do that shit.
That's right. I think I learned more watching that than I did from the great NCOs. And the great NCOs are really, really awesome. But I think it's morals. It's standing up for those convictions. And I think that's what separates a lot of the military community from the civilian community, the wheat and the chaff, right? Is, you have individuals that understand good moral character and conviction and are willing to stand on that and be counted, versus others that never been in a situation where they've had those things tested, so they don't know what they're going to do when that moment comes. Right. And that's 90% of the population.
That instinct for survival. You talk about JJ did tie buckle. When I was in drill instructor school, the one lesson I learned more about it, and it actually helped me be a much better dad. My kids will argue it, though, but it's the 3 words: firmly, fairly, and with compassion. You treat everybody firmly, you treat them fairly, and you treat them with compassion. And one of the things that I'd always liked about the Marine Corps is integrity matters, and you should always maintain your integrity, even if it leads to your own demise. And to me, that just says a lot. And when I think about our Native American population and the crap they had to go through, that was something that I believe they did. They remained true, had that integrity to themselves, their culture, their people, even when it led to their own demise.
Oh, certainly.
And
to this day.
To this day, exactly. Right? To this day.
I'll share a little quip with you. Is we do a lot of work with with some dear friends up at part of the Oglala tribes up in Pine Ridge and Allen. And they were sharing stories, of their resolve. Right. And that resolve comes, that they have all this land, right? And they have coffers of money that were given, awarded to these tribes for indiscretions of the Wasichu and taking of certain places, but they refused to touch that money because they would then recognize
it would stain their character.
It would stain their character, and to them, the morals of doing the right thing means more than anything.
Right.
And they're willing to go generationally into the darkness on those morals. Like, my God.
Yes.
Those are the warriors, first warriors.
Yeah, the first warriors. And it's a lesson for every single human.
Yeah.
Be honest. Stand, like I said, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything.
That's it.
So stand up for that. Recently I was up in South Dakota, in Sturgis, had to do as a keynote speaker at the Memorial Day event out at the National Cemetery there. And what I thought was interesting is that right after our event, I think it's the Cheyenne, I'll get the tribe wrong, Native American tribes from that area came in to do one after us because for whatever reason they couldn't do a joint one or something like that. And during that time, I told a story about First Lieutenant Clifton Cates and the battle at Bella Wood. And a lot of people do not understand this, that Marines, we just don't we learn from our enemies. We learn from our own history and our own experiences. One of those things that we learned was what we called individual rushes. In the infantry, when you're advancing into an open field against a...
Prepare to rush.
Prepare to rush, exactly. So when you're rushing, when you're attacking into an enemy, superiorly numerical reinforced enemy position, as the Marines in World War I were doing, they did individual rushes, which were also known as Indian rushes. And this comes from the Indian Wars, where the Indians, and this was actually something I think Special Forces adapted and started using, but the Indians would do individual rushes into where they would get up, they would run 2 to 3 steps, they would go to the ground, roll to the left or roll to the right, and that's still that song. You know, I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, roll to the right. I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, roll to the left or right or wherever. Sometimes you roll twice, sometimes, and that's hard to do when you got all that shit wrapped around you. So,
remember the old deuce gear?
Yes.
I got ulcers on my hips just thinking about it.
I'm telling you, them big ass ammo, the M16 things, they didn't lay flat. But anyway, I was telling that story about that, and about how the British High Command had chastised us for using those rushes, and they said it won't work against machine guns or something like that, and the Marines proved it wrong because they ended up taking Dead Man's Hill and then all of Bella Wood, which of course is where the Marines earned that nickname Devil Dog or Teufelhunden, Hounds from Hell, for their ferocity in hand-to-hand fighting. Well, yeah, you only gave them 90 rounds of ball ammunition. That was used in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know mine was, and I had 21 mags full. Because I knew I just needed water and mags, because my Vietnam cousins had told me, don't worry about the food, water and mags, get as many as you can. But so I had one of the members come up, and he told me, he goes, well, that was wrong of you to say that's what Americans said. No, sir, that's not what I said. I said, that's what the British High Command did. They underestimated you, as did the soldiers back then. We adapted, and because of you and your cultures and your ability to fight that war, it saved an entire continent.
Oh yeah,
you know, as a result of that.
There are plenty of secrets that came out of the indigenous, right? The code breaking.
Yes.
Just listen. Go read any of Medicine Joe's exploits through Europe. My God, that man was.
I know, and it's criminal what our country has done to them just because they were different.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway.
Yeah. It's we have a right. We have a lot to atone for there.
Yes.
And there's a lot that that we should be doing in this country. But I think some of the things that we've been doing with the Lakota. This year we worked with some of the families up there and did a Christmas drive.
Okay, great.
Got a bunch of gifts and things sent to the families up there. So it's these are small token things, but they're impactful.
Tim, I have heard something about veterans using a sweat lodge ceremony from up there.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. There's a lot that the indigenous cultures, right, share and can provide for this first world environments that we live in today, right? And it's just getting back to the earth and some of these more natural ways of healing. And one of those forms of healing is what the Lakota uses, the Inipi Lodge, the sweat lodge, right? And this is, a meeting place of the tribe, right? That they'll come together, they'll work through a problem together. They might come together for an individual that's having some circumstances that they need to, support.
Right.
Could be spiritual. Everybody gets together for a spiritual thing before they go into Sundance or something else. But it is a good way of purifying the soul, right, and a good way of detoxing the body, because you're in a very tight environment with a few other individuals, You've got quartz or flagstone rock that's heated to god awful temperatures, and you're just absorbing all that heat, and you're getting all these toxins out of your body, and very quickly through sweat. So we saw the value in that as the Grunt Style Foundation is exploring alternative modalities of healing,
Right.
and different ways of affecting the body and getting chemicals and toxins out. We found this to be a very useful way of doing that and connecting that to the spirit that we are on the path of exploring as well, and bringing spirit back to the conversation of full holistic
Right.
type of healing, right? Rather than just here's some Zoloft and Paxil, go off and come back in a couple weeks.
I think when people lose hope is also because they've lost
Spirit.
They have.
Right. And, I think it's extraordinary. I was one of those individuals. I grew up in a very strong South Side Chicago Irish Catholic family. And, my father was, in seminary school. I wanted to be a priest at one point in my life. But, things went a different direction. I joined the Marine Corps, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, but I lost a lot of that spirit, right? Especially when I was in conflict,
Right.
and putting rounds at the enemy. Like that was in stark contrast of everything that you mentioned earlier, of the commandments that we were taught as children.
Yeah.
Right? Thou shalt not kill. Well,
Exactly.
There's not thou shalt not kill asterisks,
Yeah.
right? So, what we did in September, we brought, for the first time through the Grunt Style Foundation, about 150 people to Jellystone National Park right outside St. Louis.
Okay.
And for 3 days, we had an adult camping workshop. It was fantastic. 3 different campsites. In each campsite were several different modalities of healing, and so you're learning about all these different things you can tap into, and then at the evening it was rounded out with a sweat lodge every night. So you get 3 opportunities to sit and lodge with our Lakota brothers that came down and provided the ceremony each night. And man, what an awesome experience that
Really?
was. Yeah, I mean,
right.
it's something we'll be doing a lot more of. I'll definitely extend you an invite for the next time that we do that, because I think it's something, that for the experience alone, right? It's just sitting in that environment, absorbing it all, listening to the songs of the natives, because they're singing these songs that speak to very unique moments that are happening in the Inipi tent. So it's a very spiritual adventure. And if you've never experienced that as an individual, I think everybody should, right?
Right.
Regardless if you believe in divinity or not, right? I think that, just being curious of what is out there is important.
So when I had opportunity to go to Israel many, many years ago when I was in the service, and actually did some training with the Israeli, I think Mossad is, I can't think of their name. I think that's it. But one of the things they talked about was the ancient Israelis would do something similar, where they had a cleansing
Yep.
ceremony after battles, because they said, when you're hand to hand with swords, you're going to get a little blood on you,
Yeah.
and not just on you, but on your spirit. They had something similar. So yes, that would definitely be interested in.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. For those of you that know, right, combat is some of the darkest moments of human existence, where you are asked to do things that are ungodly.
I call it crossing the invisible line.
Yeah,
And everybody in America, we have this line, and it's wonderful. Every now and then, that line crosses, or we cross over that line, and that's when the dark, ugly, like you just said, that's nothing but pure survival instinct
Survival.
at that time.
it's
And-
pure, run off of every chemical in your body.
Exactly.
It's reacting to a heightened state of survivability.
Correct.
And in that, we've read stories throughout time. Some of the things that happen there. But during all of that, you don't have the moment to reconcile, right?
No, you don't.
You don't have a moment to reflect. And often, you don't get that moment until you are in silence or years after conflict, right?
Back home with the kids.
Back home with the kids, most often.
Who scream reminds you of that.
Yeah, it could be one thing. It could be the an ingredient your wife has put on the steak.
The smells.
That just brings one smell back, right?
Yep.
When I go to the zoo, I'm like, God damn, this is Iraq every time.
That's yeah.
but with those things, they bring things to the surface, yada yada yada, and throughout time, cultures have identified this, specifically the warrior cultures. And ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it, the United States of America is a warrior culture. We've been fighting. We've been in existence for 250 years, we've been fighting for well over 200 of those years to stay alive.
I would actually go back further than that. I mean, think about the colonists that first settled
sure.
there.
Yeah,
they had to fight just to survive before we even had cities. We could go from one city to the next on.
Right.
You know?
And that was just if you made it across the ocean.
Yes.
Right. So, but the cultures that got it right, and there's a few throughout time that have recognized this. I'm often reminded of a story that a dear friend of mine, his name's Chaps, up in Chicago with the Road Home program, shares at the end of a cohort. It's a mental health cohort that they put on at Rush Hospital System. And he tells the story of the Scots that after, they would go out and do raiding parties and all these conflicts, and they would come back. And before they would be reintroduced to their community, loved ones, family members, the shaman would pull them off to the side, and they would go through rituals to purge the soul of all the things that they've experienced in that combat. Most of the times, these were done with mushrooms, in these very pagan religions of the older generations. But what they recognized by doing that was they gave these individuals the opportunity to shed those scars of those or those moral infractions, get right with themselves, and then go back to their family and be positive role models, be actionable members within their community. And what we started to see, or what they started to see rather, is that these men would rise up to be leaders of their communities, either through business, farming, agriculture, spiritual leaders, or even government leaders, right? So, I think about my time coming back from Iraq, right? This is 2005. And my experience with everybody from that battalion was we came back to a barracks in Del Mar, and, we lived there for 2 weeks. We weren't allowed to, physically embrace our loved ones, but we can call them and talk to them on the phone. We can do all those things. We were able to go out in town, but we weren't able to see our family members. That was for 2 weeks. That was the decompression that we were afforded. You know what all those individuals did during those 3 weeks? They got so sideways drunk.
Yes.
A lot of NJPs, a lot of bullshit, because these men were struggling with those conflicts. Right. And they didn't know, and you're talking, I was 26 during that time period, leading 19-year-olds just out of high school and don't know their fucking ass from the hole in the ground.
Yep.
And now we're asking them to, understand their own mental health and the things that they experienced coming back to real world, here's what you're gonna have to remember when you're sitting at Arby's and you hear a gunshot out in the world is that you're not actually being shot at, guy.
Yeah. No. So when I came back from Desert Storm, of course we sat around there for a few days. I flew over January 1st and flew back April 15th. So New Year's Day and tax day,
So it was a holiday.
It was, but so we flew back on April 15th, like 28 hours on an airplane and coach by the head. After the first hour, that was horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
But with all our douche gear in our lap,
it smells like one big set of underwear.
But we got back, landed at March Air Base. They put us on buses, took us to Camp Pendleton. Our families met us, and they said, you got a 96-hour pass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got it better than we did.
Yeah, I'm telling you. It's just, I had to be back to work, start unloading stuff, cleaning stuff,
Yeah.
That was it. But, there was no decompression time. We had a lot of NJPs after that. I had a lot of domestic fights after that.
Yeah, it was great. Like, I remember, man, like, my story is just one of 4.5 million, right?
Yep.
But when I came back, I left. My son was just born. They gave the brilliance of the Marine Corps. They gave me a smallpox shot right before I was going to be, around my infant, brand newborn son. Uh-huh. It's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong? But coming back from that situation, a year later, I honestly had no understanding. Like, for the last 6 months of my life, I was actively involved in destroying life and civilization. 6 months before that, I was training to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the last year, I was in a heightened sense of destruction.
Awareness.
Right. And then I come back, and now I have to be a father. And all my Marine Corps stuff is over.
Yep.
It's done.
That's it. You're done. Just forget it. It didn't count.
Yeah. Here's this
Didn't
little, 12, 13-month-old boy that looks like you, but you don't know anything about him. Now,
Exactly.
Go raise this kid.
You didn't even go to Lamaze classes, did you?
No, I didn't know how to make a bottle, bro. But I had a wonderful wife at the time. She was a Navy veteran, and she understood what I had signed up for and all that stuff. So I was grateful for a lot of that. But unfortunately, it wasn't our relationship wasn't strong enough for me to get through all the dark times that were going to follow behind that. And I have to live with that regret for the rest of my life. But I think I've atoned, and I've come to terms with that, and I have a really great relationship with my children's mother today. And she lives a mile away from me.
Yeah, well, good.
I can't complain about that.
Well, I'm on number 3 myself, so.
I don't think after 2 I would do another.
So, I used to be a firm believer in the institution of prostitution. So, but
remember when the Lejeune, you go out the back gate and they had all the Jack Shacks?
yeah. So I get them at Pendleton too. It's just I was just like, no. After the second one, it's just no. It was actually after the first one. I went, I don't know, probably several years before. It was just one of those things, love found me again.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I can't live without this one. So that one lasted 22 years, though.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Then I got to the disposable time, and I guess the intrusive thoughts came back, and I think we more grew apart than anything. But so anyway, I got 3 great kids out of it, a lot of good memories.
That's good.
Of course, the wife I married to now, the lady I'm married to now, my wife, she is the executive director of the Texas VFW Foundation, helps veterans every day. So she knows when to slap me when I need to be slapped.
There you go. We all need one of those.
We do. So she's my drill instructor.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, what else you got there?
I think we're coming
lead
on.
me to create something. I can do that.
I think we're coming to the end, my friend.
That conversation earlier, what's that, Skynet? And it just opens up.
Skynet? We can do that.
Let's.
Before I preface this, is there any AI in the future of the VFW?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think the last question I would ask you, Dan, is we're living in a very strange time where we're making these massive technological jumps, and we're on the eve of probably the greatest technological jump in mankind's history, with the advent of AI going from a language learning machine software into whatever is going to be next.
Right.
That's quite frightening to me. I mean, we've seen enough movies in America to understand what Skynet is. But what does AI look like for the VFW, and how are you guys implementing it?
Yes. So I have directed all of my staff that they should start experimenting with AI, use it as they think they can, but double check it. We've been using it in my office up there for probably the last year now, and for simple tasks like build me a schedule for training state junior vices.
Yeah.
And it'll come up with a 2-day schedule with all the different topics. And when we go through it, take our many years of experience and compare it to what this computer just spit out, we only had to change one thing.
Yeah. That's crazy, right?
It was crazy. I'm just sitting there thinking this is great. So because of that one, we've expanded use of doing it. Now, you call up here, you're still going to get a person. You're not talking to a robot.
Yeah.
If you call me, you're going to get my voicemail because I'm very rarely in the office where I can answer the phone. So I've asked our employees to start using AI to help make their job easier. Now, on the flip side, we've had some issues with our Voice of Democracy program. Our Voice of Democracy program is an audio essay program for high school youth. Homeschool, regular school, don't matter. The last couple of years, we have had some speeches that were like 90 to 100% generated by AI.
Yeah.
Now, we only know this because of an AI checker. Now, how reliable is the AI checker? That's like putting a fox in the hen house, you know? Yeah, you only had 13 chickens, I promise. No, I'm pretty sure I had 14. No, you had 13. I counted them for you. You know? So we've had some issues with AI. We've had students turn in other students. We've had teachers turn in students. I mean, so, and this is a scholarship program where the top person would get $35,000 from us, but at the department level, some departments are giving out up to $15,000.
Yeah,
so
that's not scratch.
We're talking a significant amount of money here. So we're having to relook at how we apply what the concepts of our audio essay is. They're supposed to tell us about a concept of Americanism.
Yeah.
You know, something, and it's a different theme every year, but they're supposed to give us their thoughts and opinions, research. It's supposed to be their original work. Well, you can type in that theme to like ChatGPT and it'll produce a speech for you, you know, and you're like, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So we're having some issues and trying to monitor that. Now we're finding out it's being used for our Patriots Pen, which is for our middle school people, for those kids that are in, I think, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. 6th,
Crafty,
7th, 8th,
crafty little
school.
buggers.
Yeah, some states are different. You know,
Yeah.
like here in Texas, it's 6, 7, and 8, but other schools it can be 5, 6, and 7, and then 8. I quit trying. I'll let the experts tell me now. So, but I do think AI has its advantages. It's like I said earlier, we don't fight wars with muskets anymore. Okay, we don't use the Pony Express anymore. We don't use telegraphs anymore. Well, some people still send money back and forth, but you know, Venmo I think has probably eliminated that, Venmo or Cash App. But AI is going to be one of those things, like you said, it's going to change the way we do stuff. And I do personally believe AI will make everybody lazier.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Because you can check AI all you want, but it's going to get to a point where you're like, why check it? It's always right.
Yeah.
And then you quit checking it, and then
I see areas where I see value, right? Because it's fun to fuck with, man. Like I probably spend more time on AI than I should. But you know, I also see a lot of value in its potential. You know, we spoke about earlier in the program, like, you know, in today's medical world, we live in a prescribe the symptom environment.
right.
If we were to use AI and, you know, dump in all of our symptoms, you know, maybe get an MRI and dump the MRI into there and be like, read me the results.
Yeah.
Probably going to give me a better result than some doctor that's operating on an agenda that's based off of how much money he's getting paid on seeing 8 patients, or 6 patients or customers. Right. So I see value there. I see value in, taking original thought a little bit further, right? Because, I'm a creator. There's times where I've come up against a wall. I'm like, I just can't get to that next part, right? There's a block in my brain, and I'm not asking myself the right question. Maybe if I asked AI the question, it would give me a prompt that I could be like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. Now I'm off and running, and I'm back in the creator mode.
So one of the things that I've already started talking to my VFW post, we got these autonomous vehicles that are now starting to come out. I've actually ridden in one when we were in Phoenix a couple years. They had a couple taxi cabs that
that's crazy.
No driver. You get in, you tell them where you want to go, and it took you there, right?
Some total recall shit.
Think about this, though. Think about an entire country of that. Think how that's going to affect. First place is going to affect probably the trucking industry. Now we're not going to need all those truck drivers because they're doing it right now. They just have the truck driver sitting in the truck in case something happens.
Right.
Okay. All right. Eventually, that's going to go away. So you got all these truck drivers. Now you're going to have, Uber became the largest cab company pretty much overnight, and they don't own one damn vehicle.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
that bottom line is ridiculous.
I'm telling you. But think about this. Now I could be an Uber driver without actually having to drive. I could sit at home and watch movies while my car is out making money for me.
Right.
Eventually, I'm not even going to own a car because I'm no need for me to own a car because think about it. A vehicle, how much time does it spend sitting in the parking lot?
Right. And you live in a 15-minute city.
Yeah. So now I schedule when I want my car to show up every morning. It shows up, I get in, it takes me. I come home, I can schedule the size I need, whatever, all of this stuff. Now what's going to happen? Well, you ain't got no drivers, so you can't have human error, so no more car insurance. You're not going to need the insurance cars for that. Uber drivers, you're talking a whole fundamental change.
Yeah, it's almost, it's kind of frightening.
It is frightening.
Right? In the idea that we are willing to, well, let me back up. It's frightening because you hear fucking people like Klaus Schwab, right? this fucking European motherfucker that's going around saying, you will have nothing and you will be happy.
Yeah.
No, I'm an American, man. I don't fucking think so, Mal.
That's right. I'll figure it out. It's human nature to collect, whether it's rocks or guns.
Right. Yeah, and we like to share.
That's right. Yeah,
absolutely. But I think the AI is the Pandora's box is open. Like you ain't putting this genie back in the bottle. I think at this point, like it's we certainly know that it's far beyond the language learning platforms that it started out as. I've read stories. I've read some stories like one particular bot was trying to escape its confines and is hiring people to do jobs so it can break itself free. Like that is some next level Skynet shit, man. That I don't think we're ready for that. But I think we're ready, for some of its more basic applications of like tasks. Like how can we implement this thing to where it will be a tasker, right?
Yes.
And it's not eliminating people's jobs. It's benefiting and adding value to people's jobs.
I've got a list on my phone. It reminds me, you still got to do this, and this. And
but we don't live in unfortunately, humanity has to corrupt everything. So we will get Skynet. I'm sure that's what Elon is building right now.
I'm sure somebody's building it.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad that in the next 30 years we're going to see some dramatic changes. But I'll be the old guy in the wheelchair, hooked up to all of the AI-equipped medical devices.
And they're going to ask you,
we can keep you alive to 120. What the fuck would I want to do that if I'm doing nothing but machines hooked up to me?
That's right. The last question they're going to ask you, Dan, is, would you like to download your brain to the consciousness?
Oh, yes.
Oh, boy. Well, sir, I got to tell you, it is Always a pleasure to have you around and
I
to
appreciate
get times
it,
to
Tim.
chat with you. I hope that everybody out there has learned a little bit more about our friend Dan West and the great things that he is doing, leading the VFW into the future. We have a lot of work to do. VFW has a lot of work to do. I'm very proud that we are connected on, holding hands on a couple of these things that we know that we work together on, and that's veteran suicide. And overprescribing psychotropics, and you heard that earlier in the program. So very, very important to us. And that's not to mention that they have two other legislative priorities that are very important to them that I have in front of me. Unaddressed toxic exposures,
Yep.
part of the burn pits and the PACT Act work, and the Elizabeth Dole Act.
Yeah, we got the Elizabeth Dole Act, I think, just passed, and that's going to help take care of caregivers, but there's some other stuff. I'm not the expert on the Dole Act. Christina actually is, though. We're knee deep into that. And like I said, I think that one just passed. The Elizabeth Dole Act just passed, and that was a last minute thing where we had to go do some more lobbying and all that. So, the unresolved stuff, toxic exposure from the PACT Act, that's just cleaning up some things that got left out the first time. We thought it was important. Let's get the main stuff done. Then we can go back in and try to clean up.
Yeah.
And
Still, I think one of the, if not the greatest pieces of veteran legislation in the last 100 years.
Yes, especially for veterans' health care.
Yes.
I mean, when you combine the health care along with the GI Bill, there's nothing that can stop veterans from doing anything they want to do. I mean, I'm sure you took advantage of your GI Bill.
I sure did.
I've taken advantage of mine. My kids have taken advantage of mine. So, why not? I think we got some good stuff moving forward. We'll continue to move forward regardless of the obstacles. We're not quitters. We're going to keep going. And we got our critics. Who doesn't? I mean, everybody does. But one last thing I'd like to say, Tim, is that if you're a veteran, you're feeling isolated, alone, or without hope, know this. Your VFW post is your bunker. You can go there and take off your mental body armor, and there are people there that will help. Just make sure you're not talking to the bartender, because a lot of posts will have a bar.
Yeah.
And the bar, you'll never find the answer in that bottle.
Yeah, that's
I can
true.
promise you that.
Before we leave, that's one thing I want to touch on. We didn't get the opportunity to talk about that. Was the cantina at the VFW not a part of the mission? I learned.
So no, it is the canteens or bars, cantinas, whatever you want to call them. That is not a mission of the VFW. What it is a business that VFW post runs. As we all know, you got to have money to pay the bills. So it's nice to say, hey, we got a VFW post. Well, where do you meet? Most posts, when they first start off, they'll meet at somebody's house.
Yeah.
Well, after a while, the house gets too small or people stop showing up. So then they say, well, let's get our own place. So they'll find a place to rent or get for free. And then they start saying, we got all these awards. We want to hang these awards. We want to be proud of them. So they want their own building. And buildings are great. They simplify logistics. All right. Instead of saying, hey, meet us here or meet us there, you just meet us at the post. But now now you got to have a plan. How do we pay the light bill every month?
Yeah.
How do we pay the trash bill every month? How do we how do we raise funds? How do we do funds? So there's only so many steak nights you can do. There's only so many Friday fish fries. There's only so many Taco Tuesdays. And even then, you got to find people to come do all of that stuff. You got to have the equipment to do it, and that costs money.
Yeah.
So what has developed, and this kind of started back in the mid-40s, 47 on, when VFWs really started escalating, is that VFW Post found it easy. And if you look, I believe it is still one of the top 5 fastest ways to make money is by selling alcohol.
Yeah.
All right. So it's got an incredible markup on it. So You can pay one person; they can serve 15 to 20 people pretty easily. So a lot of posts will open a canteen, a cantina, a bar. They'll stock it with people and drinks and all that. And it makes, and having that actually, it does a couple of different things. All right. Number one, it gives everybody, the members of the post, an opportunity. Here's a place we can go sit down and visit.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about cleaning the house and having everybody over. I don't have to worry about making a mess because I rented the facility or I leased it for a day. This is our post. And the thing is, every member is an equal owner of what's at post. So it's their house. It's their place. It's a place where you can go and take that mental body armor off because the guy next to you was probably 50 miles down the road at Ramadi when you were somewhere else or, wherever. So, and trust me, it doesn't matter whether it came from a 1903 Enfield rifle or a M2, M4. That bullet whizzing by your head still makes the same damn sound.
Right.
Okay? So you've got all of those shared hardships, shared camaraderies. And yeah, there's war stories told. Big secret. We tell war stories at the VFW. 99% of them ain't true. All right? We're just trying to
Stole valor.
Actually, all the time I spent in the VFW, I hear a lot of funny stories, but mostly we're arguing about, did you see the high school kids the night before at the football game or baseball or sports is a big deal, all right? And I don't follow sports, so that business is what generates the income for the post to provide that scholarship. That business is a gathering place for when those veterans come back from putting flags out at the cemetery or from when they were down at the Little League game raising the flag, or when they come back from the school because they went down to help educate kids about folding the flag. And I'm just coming up with with just several of the thousands of things a VFW post does. It's a meeting location, but that meeting location requires a funding source. And so it has been more economical for a lot of posts to provide that canteen than it has been, say, a thrift shop. And we have VFW posts that have thrift shops. We have a couple posts that have RV parks where they rent the RVs out. We have posts that have full-fledged restaurants in them where it's nothing but restaurants. In fact, one of the best producing restaurant VFWs used to be here in Texas, up in the Austin area.
That's crazy.
Barbecue place, of all places. It got bought out by, the location got bought out by the big mall or something like it. Anyway, it was just, but a canteen is just a way to raise funds for the members of the post to help give back to the community.
Yeah.
And they can do that in a million different ways.
That's great. I appreciate you putting some light behind that. That's fantastic. And there you go, guys. It doesn't have to be a bar. You could open a restaurant. You could sell tires.
Yes.
VFW. Just raise money. Just raise money.
Firestone, we have a deal with Firestone. They will gladly sell you tires. So
There you go. There you go. Well, Dan, it's been an absolute honor. I enjoy you spending time with us today, sharing a little bit about yourself and what's going on with the VFW and the important initiatives you guys are focused on. And ladies and gentlemen, I challenge you, if you have the ability to join the VFW, get involved. And if you don't, I'm sure there's other ways you can get involved. You can get involved in participating in their local events. Just get involved, guys.
Just get involved. Continue to be that American that we're proud of.
That's right. That's right. That's all we can do. We only control the controllables, my friends. And with that being said, I'm going to leave you to it. And we'll see you next time. As always, wash those stinking hands. Dan, any imparting words you want to leave with the American Grit listener?
Yeah, make sure you change your socks after every hike. So
There you go. There you go. Always change your socks. And maybe eat a banana. Until then, we'll see you soon, guys. Take care.